there.
Wherever the red dot goes, you bang.
Chasing balloons in hell, and I'm gonna see that he gets there. Wake up, middle of the night, screaming my brains out. Get high, middle of the afternoon. No way, can't stop thinking about you. It's just my nightmare, one lavish nightmare. You call me animal, that's just not the truth. I'm no animal with you, no animal. Whoa, I'm no animal, with you, no ain't enough for you. Your best friend turned out to be your worst enemy. I know what you want. Neon Sunset Boulevard. It's just my nightmare, one lavish nightmare. You call me an animal, but that's just not the truth. I'm no animal with you, no animal. Whoa, I'm no animal with
You're American.
No, sir. I'm from Kentucky.
Okay.
Excuse me, would you care to dance?
To this?
Yes, this is good.
Just 'cause you play it cool, don't think you got me fooled tonight. Alright. Don't ask me to stay. Don't think you got it made. No, you're wrong. 'Cause you can't fake it anymore. I know what you're waiting for.
All right, we are live. How is everybody doing tonight? We have got some special guests with us tonight, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. I'm absolutely tickled pink to be joined tonight by writer, producer, director, and occasionally actor. I remember you as one of Cunningham County's finest in Jason Goes to Hell. Clearly one of the high points in his career. Adam Marcus, what's up, man?
Hey, brother. Good to be here, man.
How you doing, man?
Good.
Good.
You can call me Officer Bish from here on out.
Officer Bish, you got it,
Yeah,
man.
perfect.
And joining me tonight also is the author of the definitive tome on Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah.
I've called him the world's foremost authority on Friday the 13th, and I stand by that. I'm the only one, but I stand by it. No, I'm kidding. Peter Bracke, how you doing, Peter?
I'm good, man. How are you? Long time no talk.
Yeah, I know, it's been a while,
Great
man.
to see you, Adam, as well.
You too, brother.
Too.
I always call Peter the Library of Alexandria of the Friday 13th franchise. So that's how if Peter burns to the ground, we will lose all knowledge of the franchise.
So listen, build a wall around him, okay?
Yes,
let's keep this man safe.
Yes.
Let's keep this man safe.
For that.
Keep Alexandria great. Make Alexandria great again. Right. That makes sense. Sorry.
There you go. Oh, geez. Well, I just want to thank you both for taking the time out of your schedules to hang out with me tonight and talk about movies, talk about Friday the 13th, talk about the upcoming documentary, talk about the box set, talk about this, that.
Awesome.
And the other.
Everything.
There's so much to talk about.
So much to talk about.
Well, this is the first time, Adam, you've been on Piz's show, right? So,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'll be
But we met at Horror Hound 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was just reminded of the amazing story of your first viewing of the film. So kind of awesome, actually. And immediately when he referenced it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember exactly that. Yes. So,
yeah.
You're like, oh, you were that super creepy guy. Yeah, I remember you.
Yes.
totally. No, you don't hear a lot about a lot of church youth groups going to see Jason Goes to Hell. So
You don't.
You do not.
You really don't.
You do not. I will definitely tell that. I will definitely tell that story again here before too long. I promise you.
Please do.
But,
It's great.
Yes. I don't know that story.
Great story.
But let's see who's with us so far. We've got a very, very lively chat. I know everybody was super excited for tonight. So got a very lively chat going already. Let me say to Kevin Smythe. Kevin Smythe and Scary Jerry, who's watching with us over on Twitch. Over on YouTube, we've got my buddy Dave Vanderhoff, Christopher Glavin, Nico, and thank you for that $5 super chat earlier, Nico. Thanks, Piz. A summit 27 years in the making comes alive tonight. I agree. Thank you for that, Nico. Very kind of you. My buddy Steak Sauce is here. Robert Long, John McCullough, Dr. Splinter, Jess Graham, Corey Taylor, Captain Halloween, Believe in the Hype, Jeff Overing, Rock Music Forever 90. I saw my buddy Lauren here also. Dola White.
I want to hang with Steak Sauce. I'm someone named Steak Sauce.
You'll have plenty of steak sauce.
Great.
Sure. Let's see. Gabe Kaokla is here. The Zodiac Killer is in the house.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yes.
If we can solve that tonight, that'd be amazing.
We're going down in history tonight. Yes.
What a show.
Sean Maria, Manny Gatillo, my buddy Stone Gassman. A lot of cool people here tonight hanging out with us. The Daily Ghost. Hey, what's up? What's up, Joe Reese? So yeah, gosh, why don't we just go ahead and dive right in? There's so much to talk about. Let's go ahead and let's paint the portrait of a filmmaker as a young man, because your early life is really fascinating, Adam.
And then it drops off a cliff. It's so dull.
So, true or false?
Yeah.
You got your first gig as a PA at the age of 11 and was an apprentice editor by the age of 13.
Yes. I was actually a PA really more when I was 10. It went into my 11th year, but yeah, that was sort of the first gig I had with Sean.
Well, Peter, do you remember what you were doing at the age of 11 or 13?
I was probably in the theater watching Friday 13th. That's probably what I was doing.
I'm sure the totality. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was saying I definitely was not a PA or an assistant editor at that point in my life. So I was not a child prodigy like Adam.
I'm sure the totality of my existence at 11 and 13 was watch horror movies, throw rocks at girls, and terrorize my art teacher. That was it.
Sure. All good life goals. All good goals.
Exactly. Now, how does one become a PA at 10 and an assistant editor at 13?
You have a best friend whose dad is Sean Cunningham and whose mom is Susan Cunningham. That's how that works. And you show everybody around you a constant need and love to be involved in movies and making movies and anything that has to do with movies. And I was such a sponge. I think that, and it's funny because I don't think Noel was as much into what his dad did as I was. Even though Noel had been in a lot of Sean's movies, like Here Come the Tigers and Kick and or Manny's Orphans. And in fact, Noel played Marilyn Chambers' love child in Sean's first movie, which was an X-rated film called Together. And in fact, the fact that Noel's dad had made a porn movie only made me more excited to like somehow get behind the curtain of that world. And so I think my enthusiasm and the fact that I was willing to do whatever I needed to do, that, you know, sweeping a stage was as exciting to me as anything else at that point. And I just wanted to help. I just wanted to be Johnny on the spot. I wasn't looking for any kind of credit. I was just looking to be there. I think they love that. So
what was that like being a PA just being in the middle of that kind of production at 10 years old and seeing how, you know, shots are set up and, you know, seeing Kevin Bacon take an arrow through the throat. I mean, what was that experience like?
It was a lot of me getting tab for Sean and the crew. I was definitely involved with the cooler a lot. It was really just about me grabbing stuff and bringing stuff and my eyes on, especially look, Sean at the camera was the most exciting thing for me to see. But remember, you know, I had already seen Sean in his office. I had seen Sean actually taught me how to use a word processor. And this is really at the dawn of personal computing. And Sean is a computer genius. So there was a lot of my education that happened even prior to that moment. And then when I was allowed to actually, I mean, meeting Tom Savini at 11 years old is like the coolest thing ever. I was already a Dick Smith fan by the time I was 11. So meeting these people who were really artists and brilliant and you know, and here's the other thing, you know, I grew up in Westport, Connecticut, which is about 40 miles outside of Manhattan. And Westport is, I mean, we lived right down the street from Paul Newman. You know, a few streets over was Martha Stewart and Neil Simon and Dan. I mean, it was like, you know, it was, I did play readings with Sandy Dennis and Keir DeLay. You know, so I had this education that was sort of boundless. The town that I grew up in, the local high school, and it was all public schools, but the local high school, the theater department paid for the football team. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything was sort of backwards to what most of Americana is. And so I was always around these remarkable artists, but they were demystified to me. Like, I wasn't like, oh my God, you know, I mean, I met Paul Newman many times over my life. And I was like, hey, Paul, like, it wasn't like this starstruck thing. It was, he's just the neighbor.
And he just wanted to be treated as the neighbor and not Paul Newman, the movie star.
Absolutely. And in fact, he would not sign autographs. He wouldn't do any of that stuff. He was just a guy. Mm-hmm. And if you treated him like a good neighbor, he was the most charming, wonderful, sweet, him and Joanne Woodward. So you're talking about a community of people that where there was no hierarchy when it came to that kind of stuff. And actually anybody who would act that way would be ostracized pretty quickly. So the fact that Sean was this movie maker, and look, let's be honest. I mean, Sean was an exploitation filmmaker. Okay. Sean was not, you know, was not making the latest Sean Penn movie. He was making, rip-offs of kids movies. I mean, he ripped off The Bad News Bears twice unsuccessfully. like that's what he wanted to do. Honestly, the most original thing in Sean's oeuvre up till that point was Last House on the Left. And again, here's the thing, and it's a recurring.
In that movie's a ripoff of The Virgin Spring too.
Right. But again, here's the thing: at least they're ripping off Ingmar Bergman.
Yeah.
I call it an homage, not ripoff. Homage.
By the mid 70s, truly, Sean is going like, oh, what's this Bad News Bears things? People seem to like it. I'll make that. That's what he's doing. At the beginning of his career, here's the thing, and it's a reoccurring thing in how I speak about Sean in general. Sean is an amazing producer. When it comes to getting $10 out of a dime, he's that guy. He's that guy. It's actually it's an incredible thing to watch happen. The problem is Sean as a creative being, that is almost non-existent. That person, that's a myth. He's a money guy. He's a dollars and cents guy, and that's his genius. So when he has someone like Wes Craven at the helm of the creative side of things, that's a match made in heaven. It just is, because Wes is completely unafraid, and he was creatively tapped into something that went to the nervous system of everybody's terror. Sean made sure that there was film in the camera. And by the way, that's no small feat. I mean, I'm not a guy I don't poo-poo any producer who gets a movie actually done on time, under budget, and Sean is the master of that. So I give him tremendous credit for that. So the thing about Sean was that he was the least mythologized guy in our town, because he was the guy who made, the porn movie. So there was nothing highfalutin about it. He was a cool guy that wanted to help a kid learn how to make movies.
Was there a lot of movie talk in the Cunningham house? A ton. But again, when Steve Miner and Wes Craven and all these people are coming in and out the doors, that's, Wes Craven was Uncle Wes. It wasn't, there was no sense that these are important people. They were just cool people that were there. So do you think demystifying filmmaking and movie stars, that helped you as far as?
Enormously.
Yeah.
Enormously. Well, it made me unafraid. I mean, when I made Jason Goes to Hell, I was a kid. And honestly, that wasn't my first movie. I'd already set up a movie at Disney with Sean. So I was already doing stuff, and my sense was I was never afraid to knock on a door or ask someone or talk to them about it. And also, I was never really obnoxious about it, because it was just, that was business. That was the way you did things. So I understood how to do it correctly, only because I'd seen it done correctly my whole life. But I had no will anyone ever like me? That wasn't it. So when that gets demystified for you, and you're somewhat fearless, my friend John Esposito, my best friend in the world, he gave me a quote very early on, which is the way he saw himself at one point, but he saw me this way. He said, "The man with nothing to lose is the most dangerous man in the room." And it's just true. So I was always like, what do I have to lose? Nothing.
Yeah.
So let's do this.
It's so funny you say that, because on the other side of it, because you're saying when we were 10 or 11, I don't know how it was for you, but growing up, movies seemed like this mythical, magical thing that happens in this place called Hollywood that's like Oz. And these are rarefied people. And I remember coming out to college, and it took me probably about 10 years to get over being terrified. Like going into a room for a press junket or an interview, and oh my God, there's Tim Burton, or you're like, oh my God, these people are better than me. I'm not good enough. So it seems like for you, Adam, you never had that fear.
Never.
You didn't have to go through any of that, which is great.
Nope. There are I have heroes that like I almost passed out when I met them, like those people existed. But one of my truest heroes is Brian De Palma, and he passed me in a street in New York when I was at film school, and I froze for a moment. I mean, and Brian De Palma, you can recognize him in a crowd of a million. I mean, he's the guy in the full safari outfit. He's over 6 feet tall, and he looks like a bear coming at you. And so I passed him, and I had this moment of panic. I was late for a class at NYU, and I was like, "What do I do?" And I stopped, turned around, ran the half block back to him because he'd already gone down the block quite a bit. And I immediately was like, Mr. De Palma, Mr. De Palma. And he turns around, looks at me. He says, "Yes." I said, I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. De Palma, but I'm a film student at NYU, and I just wanted to tell you, you're a big part of the reason I'm here. And he puts out his enormous hand, which engulfed mine. And he said, "Dear boy, that's the nicest thing anyone in Manhattan has ever said to me." And I stood on the street corner for 3 minutes talking with Brian De Palma about my film career because I had the balls to go do that. And later down the line, Brian got me a promotion at my first job in Manhattan. And that's a true story because I said something nice to him, because I actually just went, no, yes, he's my hero. I want to meet him. Why do I not want that moment in my life? I want to know Brian De Palma, so I'm going to go know him. And sometimes that's going to blow up in your face. Trust me, never approach Rosanna Arquette about anything, even if you're with your wife. Don't do it.
Wow.
It's bad. It's a bad moment. But I got to tell you, for the most part, I've been lucky that meeting my heroes has been a path to a better career. And they're people. This idea that they're better than people, they're not. Tom Cruise is better than people. That's true. That's true. He's like actually a superhero. So it's like, all right, different category. Daniel Day-Lewis is better than people because he was sent from some other planet. But for the most part, just folks.
Yeah.
Just folks.
That's
it's true.
That's what I tell people who, like, I go to a lot of conventions, and I tell people on their first convention, well, I really want to meet so-and-so, but I'm gonna freak out. And I'm like, he's just a guy, or she's just a girl.
Yeah.
They're just people. You know what I mean? So if you approach them with respect, you're probably going to get respect in return.
Yeah.
So
every single person I know, minus Russell Crowe, wants to hear, "I loved you in that," or "I love your work," or "I think you're awesome." Russell Crowe doesn't want to hear that. He'd rather punch you. But
he probably does want to hear it. He just probably can't.
Right.
Sometimes people put those fronts up, but they can be just as
or
needy
at least
of that.
Or at least he was well, thanks, mate, and then he punches you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, I would have taken it. I would have taken that shit. I would have.
As a
Or throw a
team,
phone. I think. He threw a phone. Wasn't that his big thing? He was throwing phones.
He was a phone thrower. It's true.
I would also discourage you from walking up to Christian Bale and getting in his light.
Oh yeah, don't want to do that.
Don't
Never
want to
get in his light.
Don't do
not
that.
do that.
Do not.
No, bad. Ill-advised.
Yeah.
Yes.
As a teen, you created a theater company and produced and directed over 50 plays, and your student film at NYU. What was it called? Hold on, I've got notes. So you like this girl. Won Best Picture.
Yep.
You can't even buy a drink yet. And you've already been a PA, an assistant editor. You've produced and directed over 50 plays, and your student film has won Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly it seems like you were driven to have a career in the arts. What was it? Why were you so driven? What sparked that fire? If you've not already answered that.
No. It's two things. Look, I grew up in a family where most of the people in the family were in the arts. If you remember the movie The Burning, for example, my uncle Ned Eisenberg plays Eddie, one of the leads of that movie. Ned is a true that guy. He's on every fourth episode of Law and Order, playing a different lawyer every single time. He is, but he's a genius, and he's a guy that anyone who sees him goes, "Oh, I love that guy." No one ever dislikes Ned Eisenberg. It's just that he's that guy. My uncle Joe wrote and directed and produced Don't Go in the House. So I had people around me that were filmmakers already and actors. My mother was a singer. My grandmother was an opera singer. So I had a lot of that going on in my life. So that was inspiring. And quite frankly, like my whole family wanted me to go into anything but it's sort of the curse of our family. Like, we're going to end up here. My brother Kip, who is in Jason Goes to Hell, Kip was a child star on the new Leave It to Beaver for 5 years and played the Beaver's son, Kip Cleaver. So, I had all of that going on. I will tell you, it's such a cliche, but it really is true, man. I'm 9 years old. I'm in a movie theater on the second day of the release of the original Star Wars. My dad had already seen it in Manhattan, drove up to Connecticut to take me and my brother the first show that morning. And the minute those ships flew overhead, the second that happened, I gasped, turned to my dad and said, I want to do that. And I think that he thought, because I was 9, he thought I wanted to be an astronaut. And it was like, no, I want to do that. And I will tell you, look, I was also very lucky, and this is one of those things I beg people to do with their kids. My parents took me to see live theater all the time. I mean, I was at Broadway theaters, which was a luxury and very nice because we lived so close, and theater was way more accessible from a cost perspective. But my parents made a concerted effort to make sure that I got those experiences. I never want to leave the stage, man. Like, from the time I was 11 to the time I was 21, I was always in production on a play at all times. Even when I was in college, I was producing stuff. So yeah, no, I decided I was going to go to NYU Film School at 10 years old. I made that decision. And I got accepted the first semester of my junior year. Early decision.
Question.
That was that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good.
Sorry,
Go for it, yeah.
sorry, just something.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there a reason you chose NYU versus USC? Because I went to USC and I remember hearing, USC is the Hollywood school, New York is the indie school. I know. Did you have that dichotomy?
I got to tell you, it was, and even though like Steven Spielberg for me is sort of a bit of a North Star, so anything he would promote or be excited about, and he loves USC, and he's been very helpful to that school, and George Lucas. Let's be honest. For me, I think the fact that Martin Scorsese had gone to NYU was one of the first because my uncle Ned was so in love with Taxi Driver, and Ned was so influential on me all the time about everything. And look, let's be honest, I lived really close to New York, and I was in New York every weekend with my dad. New York was this magical, mythical, terrifying, awesome place. And I thought I was going to live my whole life in New York. I thought I was going to be a New York filmmaker. I thought I will make movies here. And I was quickly, that idea went the way of the dodo. Once I got to New York, it went, nobody makes movies here. It's like 3 people. I'm going to go to LA. But Woody Allen, all of it, like I was steeped in all that as a kid. So New York was the destination. So USC came up, and I quickly disposed of it for myself because I was like, no, I'm going to be at Scorsese school. Tell New York stories,
I saw or I read an interview with Kane Hodder years and years ago. It may have actually been in Crystal Lake Memories. I don't remember, but he called you, Adam, an actor's director. Do you think directing plays gave you a more intimate understanding of the actor's craft?
100%. The mythology goes that my parents, when they first moved to Westport, Connecticut, I was 2. And they had an acting teacher, it was like an adult ed teacher at the high school, local high school, a guy named Al Pia. And Al had been a Broadway director, and he'd done a lot of theater in England with Sir Alec Guinness. And so Al was my parents' instructor. My parents had another class after that class. And there were a couple of times where they couldn't get a sitter for me, so they left me with Al. So that's the legend. what's amazing is that Al Pia, when I was 11 years old, he was doing summer theater at the high school, and I took it. And I didn't want to act at that point. I wanted to watch. I wanted to be in the crew and watch what happened, which he found fascinating. He's like, well, do you want to act? I said, yeah, I want to act, but I want to learn first. Like, I don't want to just do it. I want to know how it works. And he was so thrown that 11-year-old was saying this to him that he gave me a copy. This is true. He gave me a copy of An Actor Prepares by Stanislavski and told me to read the first chapter and come back to him the next day. And every day that summer, we went through a chapter per day, and he explained every word that I had read. Anything I didn't understand, he made it make sense. And again, demystified it. Mm. And that man worked with me. I mean, until the day he died, he and I had a working relationship where even when I was making Jason Goes to Hell, I called Al about stuff and talked to him about scenes and talked to him about structure and because this was one of my mentors. I've been very lucky, especially in my education, to have a series of mentors who I wanted to learn so badly, and they got and this is Sean as well. They were so excited to have a student. Like, I was like the perfect student because I wanted as much knowledge as I could get. And they felt honored for that. You know, like I was honoring them because I knew what their knowledge base was. And I wanted to drink from that well as much as possible. So, you know, look, when I meet young people who are hungry, nothing turns me on more. I'm like, that's awesome. Let's talk. And so it's why so much of my time is taken up by people.
Very much. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, fresh out of film school, Sean Cunningham hires you to produce and direct projects for him. And almost immediately you set up Johnny Zombie at Disney, of all places, with you attached to direct. How did Johnny Zombie turn into My Boyfriend's Back, and why didn't you end up directing it?
Johnny Zombie was the first movie I wanted to make. I had workshopped the film for 3 years with Dean Laurie at NYU, who was my closest friend at college and at one point a roommate. And Dean and I really loved this sort of subversive tale of a young boy whose need to go to prom with this wonderful girl means that he comes back from the dead in order to go to prom, and he's going to deteriorate in 3 days, but the prom is in 5 days, so he must eat the flesh of the living in order to get to prom. And that was the one-liner on it. Here's the thing. The movie was a hard R. It was super gory. It was really funny. It was a total horror comedy, which barely existed at that time. And it was a musical. So it was everything that Dean and I loved. And Dean, we always joked, you know, Dean was, you know, 1 part George Romero, 2 parts Walt Disney. And that was Dean. That was sort of the way he worked and wrote. And if you watch the new Harley Quinn show, the new animated show, that's Dean Laurie's show. So when you hear that show, you hear that sense of humor, that perverse, great sense of humor. That's why Dean and I were such good friends. And so we had workshopped this thing, and I really wanted to get it done. And Sean, I kind of snookered Sean into that script because he hated the script, but I found somebody else who wanted to do it. And Sean doesn't like when anybody else gets the prize. And he had fucked himself out of Nightmare on Elm Street. So I think he was desperate to like never let that happen again. And so because I'd got more interest on the script when I came to LA, he said, you know, I hate this script, but I'm going to let you have $1.5 million to go shoot it in Connecticut. And I was like, I'm going to do what now? And he said, but I hate the script. So I don't want your friend to write it. I'm going to get somebody else to come in and rewrite. And I went, then no sale. Now, mind you, I'm 21 telling Sean Cunningham, that's not a good enough deal for me, mister. I don't know what the hell, So I said, look, do this. Fly him out to LA, put him up in the cheapest hotel you can find, give us 6 weeks to rewrite and do everything you want to do to the script. And if you don't like it after that, then you can hire somebody else. So, but give him the chance. He fell for this, brought Dean out. I knew Dean would do everything Sean needed him to. We worked tirelessly for 6 weeks and ended up with a project that Sean loved so much that he was like, okay, I want to pitch this to studio. Suddenly my $1.5 million go to Connecticut was off the table. He was like, this is too good now. Let's get real money behind it, which was for me thrilling. So we knew that nobody in Hollywood ever read anything. So we were like, my background in theater and Sean's background in theater, because most people don't know, but Sean was a major, he was a Broadway guy, and he was the stage manager of things like Wait Until Dark, and then the road company of Wait Until Dark. So, Sean had a real background in storytelling, especially for the stage. Well, between he and I, and then our great casting directors, we would cast these readings, mostly just to do in-house. But now we were like, what if we cast the reading and we invite studios? We invite industry. Now they don't have to read the script. We're going to read it for them. And we're going to get great actors to read it for them. And the reading of Johnny Zombie, so Charlotte Rae from The Facts of Life, but also one of Stephen Sondheim's favorites, George Hearn, the man who won the Tony Award for Sweeney Todd on Broadway. These were this was the level of reading talent we had around this table. But best of all, Dean and my next door neighbor for 3 years at NYU played Johnny Zombie. It was a pre-Saturday Night Live Adam Sandler. And New Line and Disney were both there for this reading, and they both wanted the movie. And so they started duking it out on who would get it. And I begged Sean, I'm like, Sean, New Line is the place. Like, that's where they're going to make this movie, and they have the balls to do it. Disney has way more money. And again, if you're in Sean Cunningham's world, you never get between him and money. There's no way to stop it. And so he went with Disney. And this is Disney of the early 90s. This is the Katzenberg years where Disney was the unhappiest place on earth. I mean, truly, you would go on the lot at Disney, and it was like beautiful and pastoral and fantastic. And you would walk past people who were smiling, like these big smiles. And as they would pass, you'd just hear them go, "Kill me." So it was terrible. And they said, "We love this film." I remember the meeting we took. "We love this film. Think it's incredible. Want to put it on the fast track. We've only got one change we want to make in the script, and we're ready to go." And Dean and I were like, "One change? Are you kidding? We've been beating the crap out of for months by Napoleon over here." And they said, "Yeah, could you just get rid of the zombies?"
Oh.
And we're like, "What?" And I said, "But it's called Johnny Zombie." And they said, "Yeah, about that. Could Johnny seem, I don't know, like less dead and more like tired?" And immediately I was like, "Oh, this is not the movie I want to make, like, at all. This is a nightmare." Plus, it was going to be almost a $10 million film. There was no way Disney was going to be like, "Yeah, let this 22-year-old helm the film." It was never going to happen. So Sean had made a ton of money. I turned to Sean and I said, "Sean, I've set you up for a major payday. I know that's what you care about. Give me a movie. Like, you owe me a movie now." And that's when Sean said, "Adam, the best thing about you is you are the world's biggest nudge." And at the time I was a little insulted. Now I take it as a total compliment. But he said, "Look, New Line's buying the rights to Jason from Paramount. And if you can find a way to get that fucking hockey mask out of the movie, I'll let you write and direct the movie," quote unquote. And 3 days later, I brought him a treatment that got the fucking hockey mask out of the movie, and we were good to go.
And that was the genesis of Jason Goes to Hell.
It sure was.
But I got to tell you, I mean, Johnny Zombie sounds great, but Johnny Chronic Fatigue Syndrome, that's a winner.
Terrible.
That's a winner right there.
Terrible.
That's a winner.
I see, and I had pitched at that moment Johnny Irritable Bowel Syndrome. I thought at least
I think it's time for a remake.
I would watch.
There we go. We got it.
I would watch that. Every time he speaks to a woman, he's got to go to the bathroom.
Johnny,
you know what I mean?
Johnny shit pants.
There you go. There you go. I love it. I want to make that movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie.
Jeez, oh Pete, yeah. So that was the genesis of Jason Goes to Hell. Now were there any other Jason themed ideas that you kicked around other than killing him and sending him to hell?
No, it's funny because there is this mythological thing that keeps coming up that's just not true. Dean Laurie had made a suggestion about Jason in Los Angeles. Okay. This was an in-house joke. This was not a real thing. Okay. And then when pitches started happening for Freddy versus Jason, there was that idea got resurrected. Suddenly, I'm hearing all the time, like, well, originally it was supposed to be Jason versus Los Angeles because they had just done New York. I'm like, okay, no one ever said that seriously. We laughed. I said, we also talked about Jason versus Detroit.
Ooh.
I had one joke that was Jason goes to college. I'm like, come on, guys, it's all bullshit. The thing that there was an original story that was about Jason's brother, Elias Voorhees. This is a character I created. Dean was not involved with the project at all at this point. Dean was busy working on Johnny Zombie, so I was doing Jason. So I created this Elias character that the idea was, can we make someone worse than Jason? Is there someone more evil than Jason? And my sense was, I don't want to do a Friday the 13th movie that isn't about Voorheeses. Like that, it's got to be about that. So that's where we jumped in. And the treatment that I wrote was so brutal, was so hardcore metal horror movie. Like, I mean, it was that everyone who read it was like, this is fucking great. We can never make this. I mean, you would have had to hire porn actors for certain scenes. It was insane. Because I was like, well, from the man who made, Last House on the Left, like, let's go, let's do this. And he was like, hey, I also made House. Stop. So he was trying to, and New Line especially was like, yeah, this is a little intense. Let's dial it back a little. But the body hopping was there from day one. And that was truly just to get the mask out of the movie. And it was always going to be the mask returned at the end of the movie. Because I was like, I'm not the guy who's going to take the mask out of the movie entirely. They'll kill me. And by the way, they've been killing me ever.
I'm definitely going to ask you about the mask here momentarily. But one of the biggest criticisms of Jason Goes to Hell is, of course, the lack of Jason. Your original outline for the film had even less Jason in it. Am I right? Because Elias, being the brother, he kills Jason.
He eats his heart.
Eats his heart.
Yes, he eats his heart. So the beginning was about the same amount of Jason at the top. The ending had a little less Jason because he showed up really for a big finale with Elias, but that was it. Like it was a shorter piece. However, the reflective thing, him looking in the reflections and always seeing the mask, that was always there. That was from the beginning. What I find frustrating, and you're right, there was less Jason in the original treatment. What I find frustrating is that, Creighton Duke says it pretty cleanly in the movie, but once someone takes on Jason's evil, they're not them plus evil, they are Jason. So it's kind of annoying to me where I'm like, no, there's less hockey mask in the movie. There's not less Jason. There's way more Jason in my movie than any other Friday the 13th. It's just I made it more that he's I love the movie The Thing. It's absolutely one of my favorite films. I was like, well, why don't we do the Thing version of Friday the 13th where you don't know where Jason is? Like, what if your best friend is Jason? What if your girlfriend is Jason? That was kind of the concept. And so, but Jason's in the whole movie. Like there's almost not a scene with that doesn't have Jason in it. It's just, there's no hockey mask.
Right.
It's kind of ironic when you think about it. Like there's way more Jason in Jason Goes to Hell than the first. Everyone loves the first Friday the 13th and Jason's not even in it.
Not in it at all.
No.
14 seconds. And that's it. That's all she wrote.
I do want to show you this, Adam, because a viewer of mine sent this to me many years ago. It's the work print version of Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it is. It's really long and boring. Woo.
No, I disagree, but
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And Peter had mentioned one time a long time ago that you may want to take a look at this.
I would.
If you do, please just let me know.
I will.
I'll send it right to you.
I love it. That's brilliant.
it had been a few years since Part 8, and of course Jason had moved from Paramount to New Line. Peter, what do you remember about, were people really excited about this move from Paramount to New Line, and what was the fan reaction to that move and to the fact that, oh, here's Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday?
Well, I remember being really excited. I think we were all excited because after Paramount basically said we're not going to make more movies, we just all thought it was over completely. So I thought it was done. I thought, maybe 20 years later they would do something. But and then New Line, I was like, oh my God, they do Freddy, they were doing Leatherface, they love horror. Awesome. And it's funny now because Jason Takes Manhattan was 89 and Jason Goes to Hell was 93. Only 4 years. As an adult, 4 years is nothing, but as younger, it seemed like such a long time. Now it's like a blink of an eye.
Yeah. So
it seemed like, oh, so yeah. So I'm, and then I remember hearing about Sean Cunningham coming back. I think the first thing I read was Fangoria when there was it was Monster Invasion, and they had some drawings. And I think somewhere in the headline, Adam, they use a quote from you, this is unlike any Jason movie ever before. And I want to, you wanted to make a movie about the community of Crystal Lake and make it a real believable kind of town. So I remember being really cool, very excited. So yeah, definitely, and also I remember too, thinking in the back of our heads, we're like, oh, it can be Gorks to probably do an unrated version on video, and Paramount would never do that. So yeah, it was really cool.
Well, really,
that's right. Because how old were you when Jason Goes around this time?
I was 13. So
Okay.
this was the first movie that I recall seeing TV spots and stuff for. Because like you said, it seemed to me like Part 8 had been on video and on television for years. You know what I mean? Yeah. Forever. And where's this new Jason movie? And then all of a sudden, bam, there. And I remember the chrome mask, and I went, oh my God, he's got a chrome mask now. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And that was that. I was hyped through the roof for it.
Yeah. Although there was a little sense of disappointment, the final Friday, but I don't know if I remember thinking, oh, they're going to do another one or not, or if we really believed it was the last one. Because now we're so cynical, nothing's ends.
Yeah,
so, right. But I think we believed it.
I think the fact that it was called The Final Friday just made it more of an event. You know what I mean? You have to see this movie.
Totally.
So I mean, it works.
But by the way, the way Peter saw the movie.
Yes, Peter, please tell us about the first time you saw Jason Goes to Hell.
Oh my God, yes. So it's so funny. I was at USC Film School. This was 1990. I was there in 92. So yeah, I think it was spring of 93. They you'd walk around the mall and stuff, and they'd have those guys that would stand and pass out movie tickets, come to a free screening. They wouldn't tell you what it was. And you couldn't be related to the film industry. So me and my friend Susan, we were both film students. We lied and said we were engineering students. And it was okay. So we go to the screening. I don't know. It was in this weird industrial. We go and okay, this is some sort of fake thing. They're going to kill us. Cause it was it felt like an industrial plant or something. We were lined up. I don't know if you remember that, Adam, but it was industrial area. I don't remember where it was, but somewhere in LA. So we're waiting in line, and then the woman comes out and she's like, oh, the movie's, Jason Goes to Hell. I'm like, oh my God. So it's a test screening for Jason Goes to Hell. So we go in, and then I remember we were near the front, and they came out early. If the story is too long, just cut me off. But
no, it's great. This is awesome.
They're walking around, and they're like, okay, we pick a certain number of people. Would you be willing to fill out an audience card? How you like the movie, and sit for a test focus group. Thank you. I'm like, of course I would. Oh my God, I can tell her I'm this big Friday fan. I'm telling her, and she's like, oh, I'm so excited. It's a New Line. I don't know who. And so we got a little cards. We watched the movie, and then there was no credit. So it was I remember the opening's the same, and then when it starts, the camera would just zoom into black because they hadn't put the credits in yet. So and I remember this guy back going, what the fuck's going on? I'm like, well, it's a credit, you fucking idiot. I'm like, because most of the people no one was film students. These were just normal, average Joes. So they're all confused. And I remember the camper scene was not in there at all. So
nope, didn't exist yet.
That was not in there. Yeah. And I think the ending might have been a little bit different. I can't remember. But I remember the moment with the hand coming out and the Freddy glove was in there. Mm-hmm. So I remember everyone ape shit at the end for that. Mm-hmm. So it ends, and I remember this guy with this hideous suit. He was this white guy that looked like he was from a bank. but he was trying to dress hip, so he had like this urban suit, like I don't know, like Flavor Flav would wear. It was just so bizarre.
He was the worst.
And he's awful. So he's trying to get the craze. Okay, you know, and he asked these stupid because we were film majors, so we thought of course, we were like really smart and hip and cool into the film industry. So you know, he's even worse. But he's trying to get like, you know, he's treating you like you're an idiot because like you're average Joes who don't know anything about movies, you know. But I remember they asked us a bunch of questions, and I remember a lot of people. I was one of the people, so you can blame me, Adam. But the one because they raise our hands to give feedback, and my one comment was I wanted more stalking. So I was one of the people that said, you know, I missed that a little bit. So I would like to think that I'm partially responsible for the camper scene, just because I was.
By the way, first off, thank you for that because it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. But
okay,
I remember Peter. When Peter said to me what his answer was, I was like, that was you. I was standing in the back of the theater listening to the whole conversation the whole time.
Well, I remember because I don't know if you remember. So maybe I remember afterward because I knew your name and I knew how chess screens work. So I remember looking back and there was a bunch of people. I want to say Mike DeLuca was there. I could be wrong. I knew who he was.
He was.
And I remember seeing this guy leaning towards, putting his hand on the row of chairs in front of him, looking and kind of smirking and laughing. I remember thinking, I think that's Adam Marcus. And I was like, it seemed like you were thinking like a mixture of like, I can't believe, wow, this is my first, like, people are responding. And that you were thrilled that everyone screamed at the end when so I was always wondering if that was you and what you were thinking in that moment.
It is. Okay. That's me. That's me at any screening. I'm always
okay. Yeah, you had your hands over the front.
That's me.
As I was wondering, what your thoughts? I was wondering from a filmmaker what it's like to see the first audience reaction to your movie.
Well, it was awesome because it was positive. Like I remember when they got the cards back, and the score was like a 54 or 55. Out of 100, and I was like, oh no, and they were like, no, that's amazing. I'm like, it is? They said for a horror movie? Are you kidding? No one wants to admit they like the movie. They said this is a great score, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And even Sean was like, no, that's good. That's a good score. And again, it inspired us to go back and actually like put more footage. Are you kidding? I was going to get to go back on set for 3 days and shoot more shit. I was like, yeah. So no, it was awesome. That was awesome. That screening.
I do. Yeah. And I do remember some of us were confused. I remember the moment when Creighton Duke says the donut thing. Yeah. My friend said, she's like, what? I'm like, I don't know. we were like, oh, what the fuck's going on? I don't know what the fuck this is. But in a fun way. I remember that.
So that's what this cut of the film is. It's the film that was test screened.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So there's no camper sequence. Let's see what else is there not.
Yeah, I want to say there's a little bit more with Aaron Gray. There might be a little more dialogue. I'm trying to remember.
Well, there was a whole thing with Aaron Gray and the sheriff. There was more of that interaction. She doesn't call Jessica. We added the call to Jessica. Like that all got stitched together. And then isn't there more Creighton at the end of that one in his explanation? There's
Jessica and her boyfriend who gets killed. That's in here. I'm more of Creighton. I don't know.
We might have excised that already. So here's the thing: the cut you have is closer to 90 minutes, right?
Yes.
Yeah. When I said the really long and boring one, I meant the 120-minute cut.
Yeah.
That was the real work print of the movie where the first time I watched it and went, oh my God, I'm never going to make another movie. Because it was long and boring. It really was.
I have to say, I love the Melissa character in this movie. I hadn't planned to ask you anything about Melissa though, but I love her in this movie. Because when the crap hits the fan in the diner, everybody runs. She grabs the double barrel under the counter and goes to work.
You mean Allison?
Allison, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry, Allison.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I love her character. I thought she's very cute, and then when she whips up that double barrel, I'm just like, oh.
Yes.
I like her.
She has a great death.
So here's the thing. The Allison thing is crazy. She came to audition for me. She had just had an accident in her house where she had been cleaning dishes and she had her hand in a glass and it broke, it shattered,
Oof.
and it cut her wrist. Her whole wrist had like been torn open. So she had this gauze cast all over her arm when she came into audition for me. And of course, she walks in, she goes, "I didn't try to kill myself. This was a flat." Like she she's like, "I'm perfectly stable," and so she auditioned for me. And the thing is, I was already a huge Allison Smith fan because when I was a little kid, I was maybe 11 or 12, I saw her on Broadway as Annie. She was the second Annie to ever play the role. And so I knew her. Like I knew I was, and I said to her, I'm like, "I saw you in Annie." She's like, "You did what now?" And then of course she had been on Creighton Alley for all those years. So I was a huge fan of her work. And so we cast her, and she was truly one of the most fun actors I've ever worked with. Her, Rusty Schwimmer, and I became like, we were ridiculous, the three of us. Like whenever they were on set, they were always with me, and we were always joking and making fun of stuff. And it was just amazing. I adore the two of them. But Carrie Keegan, who she and I have buried the axe, so it's all good. We've taken care of our situation, and she's not in the business anymore. It's all good. But Carrie was, let's say, difficult on the film, and I think had Sean's ear a little too much, and I think that was part of the difficulty that went on. And the thing is, originally in the script, Carrie was the one who was supposed to grab that shotgun. That was supposed to be her moment. And I was so over Carrie Keegan at that point. I was so pissed that I was like, I will not let her look fucking cool in my movie. That's done. And so I carried the shotgun over to Allison. I said, I think this piece of action works better with you, because I think Carrie's already over there and John's got a gun. So that seems a little too ma pa clamp it. So I'm going to have you have the gun. And Carrie, I'm telling you, the feeling of lasers at the back of my throat hitting me. And it was one of those moments where I was like, kiddo, don't fuck with the director, because we'll make changes that you ain't going to do. And Allison, she took to that shotgun. I was like, what? She's so badass. She's amazing in the movie. I mean, truly, like, I adore her. Yeah, dude.
Now, I was going to say, I don't know if I can say it. I actually, in retrospect, I would have loved to have Allison Smith be the Carrie Keegan part.
She should have been. She should have been. By the way, she would have been. Here's the thing that happened. There was another actress who was supposed to play Carrie's role. I was good friends we had a lot of friends from UCLA, and one of my best friends from back home, from my theater company back home, was at UCLA, and her roommate was Laurie Holden from Walking Dead fame.
What's that show?
Exactly. Qu'est-ce que c'est dead? But here's the thing. Laurie had already had kind of an amazing career in Canada at that point. She was at UCLA in the acting school. She was getting her degree. But this was a woman who already had a resume. So I asked Laurie to come in and audition for the lead of the movie. I was like, listen, you have a great resume. We're friends already. We have a great working relationship. Like, come on in. She read for the part. She blew the room away. Everyone was like, oh my God. Like, Adam, you found the lead of the movie without even the use of a casting director. Like, this is the girl. So I was going to cast Laurie and I was going to cast Allison, right? Those were my two. Carrie had come in, and Carrie was very good. She did really good reading. She's a terrific actor. But that's not the way I was going to go. I was like, I have Laurie Holden, who, by the way, Laurie Holden at 20, it's like Kathleen Turner in Body Heat. It's that beautiful. Like, she could stop a clock. She was so goddamn gorgeous. And so this was going to be my cast. And so I'd offered the role to Allison, knowing that I got my lead. Yeah. Sean told me I couldn't have Laurie Holden. And I said, why? And he said, she's too pretty. The women in the audience are going to hate her. I was like, wait a minute, Sean, what? Like, what? What? Why? That doesn't make any sense. I'm telling you, Marcus, they're going to hate her. And I'm putting my foot down. You'll use Keegan. It's your number 2. Go with that. So I did not pick Carrie Keegan. Carrie Keegan got picked out of attrition because my number one choice, who really should have been the lead of the movie, was stolen from me by Sean Cunningham for a reason that I find patently insane. It's an insane reason. She was by far the best actress. The camera lens adored her. She was amazing. And her and Allison, they read together. They had chemistry readings together. They were an amazing duo. So it was, that was heartbreaking for me because you're right. If I had been able to switch things around at that point, I would have put Allison in the lead because, again, Allison and I got along instantly. Carrie and I got along fine. For a long time, we were fine, but I didn't have the kind of kinship with her. And that's the thing about that cast. Like, everybody in that cast, truly everybody in that cast, including Kane, we bonded. We had this brotherhood. There was something like beautiful about it. And so much so, my film is the only Friday the 13th film that had a month of rehearsal before the shoot.
Yeah, I was going to say you rehearsed for a long time before you started shooting.
You bet. Because I was like, why do film actors get treated as though they're not part of a process that actors need to do their work? And the minute that, I asked them, every single cast member was like, we're going to rehearse? Yeah, I don't have anything going on. Let's do it. So, unless they had auditions that day, they were so psyched to come and do this. And guys like Stephen Culp, who is a major theater presence. This is an Angels in America guy. And he was like, I am so psyched to rehearse. This is so cool. And we talked about their lives as characters. We built I had everybody write out what their character life was before this moment in the movie. And so we treated it like a real movie. We didn't treat it like this is going to be some pop culture bunch of nonsense. I was like, no, I want you guys swinging for an Oscar. Forget that it's a slasher movie. We're going to do better than that. And that was kind of the idea behind it. And it's why, look, I know there are a lot of people who hate the movie because I don't have enough hockey mask. I got it. Good. It's a great argument. But here's the thing. The one thing that I dare anybody to say to me is that it's not the best performed Friday the 13th movie. From an acting standpoint, I am so proud of the work of those actors. I think they worked their asses off and they came to set really to bring these characters to life. And I'm not saying there weren't fantastic performances throughout the whole franchise. There were. Amy Steele all day, please. But you know what? From soup to nuts, there's not a person in there that has two lines that isn't giving their all to the movie.
I agree.
Yeah.
This is an extremely well-tread path. There's been a lot of controversy about the mask, of course. Whose idea it was to take it out? You say it was Sean Cunningham. Sean Cunningham says it was your idea. What for the last time? Who said let's get rid of the damn hockey mask?
Okay.
Enter right here.
Okay. So Peter and I truly, the movie that we've been making and that we are still making, and hopefully when COVID ends, we can finish making and finish our interviews. The movie we're making, that's one of the major questions, okay, is about this. And look, I got set. I didn't know Sean was saying this. For years, I didn't know Sean was saying this about the movie. Here's the thing. Once Sean started doing the convention circuit, that's really when things changed with Sean and I, quite frankly. Once Sean needed the money of fans signing stuff, and again, you never get between Sean and his money. Suddenly, Sean invented this whole new narrative about what happened during Jason Goes to Hell. So whenever I go to film festivals with films that I'm making now, you see, I'm a filmmaker who's still making films. Sean Cunningham's a guy going to conventions and signing stuff for people to pay him. When I'm out at a festival showing a movie, and this question comes up every time, I tell my fans, I say, hey guys, listen, everybody take out your cameras. I am giving you permission right now. You can post this on YouTube today. Okay, you have one of two scenarios. Either Sean Cunningham told me to take the hockey mask out of the movie, okay? And I, being a 21-year-old kid, went, okay, Sean, I'll do whatever I need to do to make my first feature film. Or I, a 21-year-old, walked into Sean Cunningham's office. Sean S. Cunningham, the creator of the largest horror franchise in the history of movies up to that point. Okay? And not only that, the House franchise et al. I walked in and I said, hey, listen, Sean, I'm going to make this movie, but I'm going to take the fucking hockey mask out of there because that's stupid. Who wants to see the hockey mask anymore? That's ridiculous. And he said, oh, sure, Adam. Anything you want.
Yes, sir, Mr. Marcus.
Right.
Here's your coffee.
So here's the deal. One of two things. Either I am a good soldier who did what I needed to do, or I am the most powerful 21-year-old to ever take breath in the history of our industry. And on Sean's side, either he's a eunuch who would cower at the power of a 21-year-old film school student, or he told me to take the fucking hockey mask out of the movie, which makes him a liar. So he can have either choice, either eunuch or liar. I will take good soldier or most powerful 21-year-old filmmaker in the history of the industry. I'll take either one. He can take one. It's his choice. So whichever way he wants to go, I'll accept the results of that, and I will bask in the glory of either answer.
Why was the mask such a contentious thing for him?
Great question. Okay, Sean Cunningham made a movie about a mother avenging the death of her child. Mm. It was a potboiler, as he calls it. It was an Agatha Christie 10 Little Indians version of a slasher movie, where a grieving mother is murdering camp counselors for not watching her hydrocephalic-headed child, and he drowns. That's the movie Sean made. He liked John Carpenter because Sean Cunningham John Carpenter never had an idea Sean Cunningham didn't think was worth stealing. He makes his own version of the Halloween franchise. Much like John Carpenter didn't want to tell stories about Michael Myers. He wanted to tell tales of Halloween. So when they came to him about doing a sequel, he wanted to do Season of the Witch. They went, fuck you, it's a Michael Myers movie. Now, by the way, Halloween is about Michael Myers, so it makes sense to make it about Michael Myers. When they went to Sean about Friday the 13th, he wanted to make movies about the unluckiest day of the year. That was his concept. And they said, wait a minute. What about the kid from the lake? And he went, what kid from the kid at the end of the movie? The Carrie ripoff? That's what you want to make a movie about? Which is why he didn't direct the film. Steve Miner directed the film. Sean gave it to his protege. Steve Miner makes the movie. They bring him Sackhead. They show him Sackhead Jason. And he says, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. You've just turned this homicidal maniac into the Elephant Man. You're idiots. Then, when they go to do part 3, which Sean further divorces himself from, they show him the hockey mask. He said, wow, I thought the sack was fucking stupid. Okay? Now, by the way, Sean is on record having said all of this. Sean has done roundtables that are available for people to watch where he said all this. Right, Peter? Am I?
Oh, yeah. It's in the book. Yeah, in the book. Yeah, I mean, he's very, he's like, I didn't get it. I didn't understand Jason at all. I thought it was stupid.
Right.
He's exactly right. And that was before Halloween 2. I mean 3. That was, this would have been, late summer of 1980. Yeah, yep. He's making that decision before Halloween 3 even existed. So, he always wanted to do a series of Friday the 13th related unlucky movies. And you're right, by part 3, he had nothing. Even part 2, he's like, I had nothing to do with it.
He just got to check. He just got to check every time.
Well, he told me, he thought, he said, paraphrasing, but he's like, after Friday the 13th, I thought I was going to go to Hollywood and they would have this drawer full of amazing quality dramas that I could do. He did A Stranger's Watching, blah, blah, blah. So he wanted to win an Oscar. I mean, that was his dream. So like Steve Miner, the same way, when he started to move to Hollywood, suddenly Friday the 13th didn't really exist to him. Yeah.
And by the way, to what Peter just said, to what he literally just said, okay, Sean wanted to win an Oscar. He told me that in 1991 that he wanted to win an Oscar. And I almost started to laugh because I'm like, you're the Friday the 13th guy. Like, what? I didn't say that to him, but that's in my mind. Like, are you what? But that's what he wanted. And he thought that was attainable. And by the way, I worked for him in development for a year before anything else happened. While I was selling the first movie, all of our projects were these highfalutin dramas and a country western musical where I was like, what is Sean doing?
It's interesting that you say that. I did one of these with Todd Farmer a couple of weeks back. And I asked him, what sorts of projects did you work on with thinking, a slasher movie, a torture porn? He was like, courtroom drama. He said, I know nothing about courtroom dramas, but I was writing a courtroom drama in Sean Cunningham's bedroom.
Dude, Dean Lorey got paid to write a Boy and His Dog movie while we were there.
Oh.
I know. But the problem is I would not want to put a dog in Sean's hand for a movie. It's all just terrifying.
Well, another thing Sean said to me, said the best time he ever had making movies was Here Comes the Tigers and Annie's Orphans. He loved working with the kids. And I guess we should say is, a lot of people do start off and look at Wes Craven or other movies, and you can go on and you can direct highfalutin dramas and I suppose. So I guess it would be potentially attainable.
It's David Cronenberg. The problem is David Cronenberg's always gotten great reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Cunningham has always gotten horrible reviews no matter what he puts out there. It's always hated by the critics. So that's not it's not the obvious career path, but here's the thing, to your point. Dude, the story of the man in the iron mask. Sean is the man behind the resin mask, because when you hear Sean Cunningham, all you think is the Jason mask. All you think is the hockey mask. And Sean never made a movie with a guy in a hockey mask. So he was trapped inside that fandom. And it's movies. By the way, he doesn't like those movies. He doesn't like these films. He says it all the time. And I was constantly butting up against the idea that kids are idiots. They'll buy any of this shit. And I'm like, I was one of those kids. Like, I love these movies. And I'm like, wait a sec, don't say that. Like, don't hurt my fandom. I'm trying to make this for you. So there was a disrespect to the franchise. It was all about cash. And he hated that hockey mask. So again, is it the 21-year-old who loves these movies going, let's get rid of the hockey mask? Or is it the 53-year-old angry guy who hasn't gotten his Oscar and sees no pathway to it, who's stuck behind that hockey mask, who says, get the fucking hockey mask out of the movie? I mean, by the way, do you actually think that New Line is going to buy Jason Voorhees? They're going to buy that character. And Bob Shea is going to have some 21-year-old tell him, let's lose the hockey mask? Or does that have to come from the man who created the genre?
That's actually a good question. I mean, did the studio have any reservations?
Yeah,
none.
I was getting to that. Yeah, because I mean, and it's not just the fact that there's no hockey mask, but I mean, Jason Goes to Hell's a huge departure in the sense that you've got an adult cast. The movie's not anchored solely to Crystal Lake or set in the woods somewhere, and there's a lot of action in it.
Yep.
Was there any pushback from Sean or the studio?
No, here's what's amazing about the studio at that time. And by the way, I give full credit to Mark Ordesky and Mike DeLuca. They're the reason I got to make the movie I wanted to make. They were so in love with what I was doing. And we got along so well. Because remember, DeLuca and Ordesky were only a few years older than me. Like, we were all around the same age. And DeLuca, there's a Cinefantastique interview with DeLuca a couple months before Jason Goes to Hell comes out. And Mike DeLuca says, this movie is closer to Terminator 2 than it is to Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
He said, that's what I'm so excited about. He said, Adam's energy, like, this movie is a freight train that never stops coming at you. And so they loved it. And Mike, remember Mike, he wrote Freddy's Dead.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a guy who constantly wanted to upset the apple cart. And when I walked in, he was like, yeah, like, I got a guy like me that wants to like charge and tear down the barricades and do something different. Because honestly, I mean, look, forget about Sean and forget about him asking for the hockey mask out. one of my biggest frustrations with genre fans in particular, and most specifically with slasher film loving genre fans, they're always screaming for different. They're always screaming, give us something new. Don't do the same old thing. Give us something new. And the minute anyone gives them something new, they flip the fuck out and hate it.
Yeah, it's true.
So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I was going to get to that. Cause I mean, when you get to these franchises, by the time you get to like the fourth or the fifth one, there seems to be the newness is worn off. Sure. And the mantra is give us something new, give us something different. I don't know how new and different you could get other than Jason Goes to Hell, because, and this is one of the things I love about the film too. There's no connective tissue to the other films. There's no, the film doesn't need to justify itself with a lineage, which is that you just are dropped in the middle of the film, which is how they should do it when and if they ever make another one. And with, I think it's like at the 7-minute mark, Jason is blown to smithereens. So for the first time in the history of Friday the 13th, you've given us a moment where we have no idea what's going to happen next. The star of the show has been is Chum. He's Chum now. So
I did Scream before Scream happened. I killed Drew Barrymore.
What did you think, Peter, when you saw Jason Goes to Hell and there's Jason just exploded into a million pieces at the 7-minute mark?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit ruined because I do remember reading that I knew about the body thing. But it was still it was weird. It was almost like a death in the family. In a weird way. Like I was prepared for it. It was like awesome. Like your dog dying. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because like I knew the movie was going to be different, but so when you're a fan, even though you prepare yourself, if you go in when that moment still happens, it was like watching my childhood kind of die a little. Like because I knew those 8 like it's that Jason is over. This is going to be a new thing. The next 90 minutes is going to be. So I didn't know what to expect, but I got over it within like 2 minutes. So
by the way,
it was jarring. It was just jarring. Yeah, that's
the reason. That's literally the reason why it's not in the screenplay, but I added it on set. The moment where Creighton is sitting on the hill, and he pulls a cigar out of his mouth, and goes, "I don't think so."
Yeah.
That was truly because I knew, like, people are going to be like, wait a minute, what? And I knew it's going to be like a death in the family. 100%. That's why I put that moment in so that the fans knew, wink, wink. Yeah. It's still Jason. He's still here.
Yeah. The way that I remember it as a 13-year-old kid was lots of excitement, lots of people talking and having a great time up to that point. And then when Jason blows up, it's just like, what? Just like silence. Yeah. But I remember being really excited for like, okay, how are they going to bring him back? Because I mean, he's got to come back, but how in the hell are they going to bring him back? He's in a million pieces. So it didn't really bother me at all. I was just like super excited.
Right.
Something you said earlier, Piz, I know we've talked about this, Adam, and people forget, by 1992, I guess 93, when movies being made, like slashers were old news. I mean, they've been done. It was tired. It was worn out. I mean, we're all looking for something new and fresh. So I could see why Michael DeLuca, like, no one was trying to go back. Like now it's different. Everyone's trying to be nostalgic and retro and go back. But we were ready for something. We were ready for action horror. Everything was about hybrids and bringing things together. So like, I mean, you couldn't do another Jason stalking in the woods thing by this point. Like it was, people forget that after Friday the Final Chapter, that was the last mainstream Friday the 13th movie. That's still when I remember friends going to see it. It's like, oh, it's the last one. And after that, everyone I knew except for the diehards were like, I'm done. Like, New Beginning was all gimmick movies. Yeah, it was gimmick movies. It was only the hardcore fans that would see it. So I remember by Jason Goes to Hell was like, you had to do something fresh because the kids I grew up with, I was in my 20s, So like Piz, you were younger, but every generation needs their own voice and their own kind of movies. So anyway, sorry.
No, it's true. No, you're right. You're right.
But I mean, thinking about it, this is the 9th film, and after 7 minutes in, where are you going? And this is a slasher movie, quote unquote slasher movie. Everybody knows how a slasher movie is going to turn out. 7 minutes in, the star of the show's. I mean, imagine 7 minutes into Halloween Kills, and Michael Myers is blown to smithereens. You know,
I honestly,
Yeah.
I think I might find that sweet relief, but I'm just that's just me. That's just me.
Another bone of contention when it comes to Jason Goes to Hell is your claim that Jason is a Deadite. Now, I remember seeing the Necronomicon in the movie when I saw it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's Evil Dead. And then, of course, like the mystical dagger. I was like, okay, so there's something Evil Deadish going on.
Nice. Good for you. Good for you.
What was the thought process behind, let's throw some Evil Dead lore in here?
Well, I was throwing everything but the kitchen sink in the movie. I mean, but seriously, because here's the thing. Look, okay. Going back to the first movie, right? You have a little boy jump up from the lake to avenge his mommy in the last moment of that film. And by the way, it's not Carrie, so it's not a dream. It's a thing that actually happens because that little boy goes after Alice 2 weeks later after the movie is ended and kills her. Okay. However, in that 2 weeks, that little boy has gained 140 pounds, about 18 inches. And he somehow found a way to drive. He's got a driver's license, which is terrific. He's got clothes that fit him. He carries mom's head. He uses a phone. He carries mom's head. Okay. And then carries Alice back with him to put in his shrine.
Oh, did you take a cab? Did you put it in the back seat?
That's my feeling. Like, again, if he hadn't learned to drive yet, he was really good at looking through the yellow pages, finding where Alice lived. Everything about it is so stupid. It's just patently stupid, right? Okay. But they do it and nobody seems to notice it. Guess what? What was I, 13 when that movie came out? 12, 13? And I was sitting there going, what? That doesn't make it, what? And I'm a little boy going, that's dumb. That doesn't make sense. Okay? So my feeling when I got to our film, after Jason has been killed 47 times, resurrected, becomes zombie Jason, then he's fighting Carrie, then he's fighting New York, like a vault. My response to it was, okay, this is not a person. This is some spirit of vengeance. This is this is hell's assassin. And I was obsessed with Evil Dead as a kid, not specifically just for the movie, but for the fact that the movie had been made by a bunch of college friends with no money. They went out and they made a movie that got the whole world to notice what they were doing. So Sam et al. Were my heroes growing up. So I was like, wait a minute. Why don't we go back to the Evil Dead? Because if Pamela Voorhees would do anything to resurrect her son, if everything is about her kid, wouldn't she spend any amount of money she needed to get something that could resurrect her child? And the Evil Dead brings back the Evil Dead. So wouldn't she look for that? And what if, here's this woman, she reads those incantations and her child does wake up, but he's at the bottom of Crystal Lake and he's in a darkness, an inky black darkness that he does not understand. And he's also mentally challenged. So now you've got this kid at the bottom of the lake, terrified. And the first thing he sees is his mother at the edge of the lake getting her head cut off before she gets to save him. And that's when he emerges from that lake. Well, guess what? If he's part of the Evil Dead, he can grow 14 feet in 2 weeks. He can find any way he needs to get to Alice. He can do all of the crazy shit that happens over the bodies of those movies. And now I always think of, now in retrospect, I think of Jason Goes to Hell as the Rogue One of the Friday 13th franchise. Because we went in and fixed the 3-meter hole in the Death Star that Luke blows up the Death Star, where you go, why would someone engineer a 3-meter hole that you could blow up this whole fucking space station? Like, who would put that in? And then they went, oh, we're going to make an entire movie that justifies the 3-meter hole. That's my
never saw Rogue One. No.
You never seen Rogue One?
I'm not really a Star Wars fan.
No, wait. Wait. By the way, you don't have to be. You don't have to be.
Okay.
Rogue One is a terrific movie. It's a terrific.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I know a lot of really
Well,
hard.
I actually like the Mandalorian. I like the Mandalorian.
Then
very-
you really dig Rogue One.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
It's a
love
cool movie.
I love the Mandalorian. I liked
You like Rogue
I
One?
liked Rogue One too. I know a lot of people who aren't really into the new Star Wars, the Disney Star Wars, but they liked Rogue One.
Yeah,
They liked Rogue
it's the Saving Private Ryan of the Star Wars franchise.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was why the Evil Dead. The other part of it is, I got to meet Sam because K&B guys were doing Army of Darkness, and so I got to be on set for a number of days with Bob Kurtzman. And I said to Bob, I said, "Listen, I have this plan. New Line doesn't own the Evil Dead, but I really, really want to make Jason part of the Evil Dead lore." I said, "Do you think that Sam would let me borrow the Necronomicon?" And he's like, "I don't know. Let's go ask him." And we did. And Sam handed me the Necronomicon in a Ziploc bag. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, because he was like, "Dig it,
Yeah.
dude!" Like he was as excited as I was. He's like, "I think that's very fucking cool." So I couldn't say Deadite, Evil Dead, whatnot in the movie. I couldn't do that. But that's why the book is there. That's why the dagger there. It's why I mean, come on. It's like you don't need to be Scooby-Doo to figure out this mystery.
A number of people in the chat have pointed out the Creep Show crate that's down under the house too.
It sure is. And that was also part of the idea that Pamela kept buying these antiquities to find some magical way to get her child back. That was the idea. And the idea of getting Fluffy was that would be her spirit of vengeance that would go kill the counselors. So it was just all these ideas of like, what are the things that Pamela would turn to avenge her child's death or to bring him back? That was the idea.
Oh, by the way, I was telling my brother, who I was telling you about before we started, Adam. I said, I'm doing a live stream tonight with Adam Marcus, and he goes, "Jason goes to hell." I said, "What do you want?" I said, "What do you want me to say to Adam Marcus?" He said, "Hello, Adam Marcus." So he says hello.
Oh, that's awesome. Please say hi back. I love that. It's pretty cool. I love that.
He knows about horror probably better than I do. He's just an encyclopedia of horror.
Yeah, I see a lot of the pictures.
Yeah, it's great.
I have to say, Piz, by the way, you have a very impressive man cave.
It's great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I
very
love
much.
the television of fire behind you. It's
Oh
beautiful.
yeah.
Yes.
It's the hell that Jason lives in.
I love it. I love it. So good. So good.
I've heard that if 70% of what you initially envision can make it on screen, then that's a success.
Yeah.
How did Jason Goes to Hell evolve from the screenplay that you and Dean Lorey wrote to what we eventually saw?
Well, look, there was a stopover in Jay Hughley territory before Dean got brought on. Dean had actually not been brought as a writer yet. And the reason Jay Hughley was ill at the time, Jay was not a horror guy at all. That was not what he did. He was the guy who had written the country musical that Sean wanted to direct, that Harry Manfredini was a contributor on as well. And so Sean asked, he says, "I want my friend Jay to come and do a pass." And we were like, okay, we didn't know, like, all right, fine. Like if you think he's a good writer, great. And he did a pass and it was not good. It didn't make sense. It was bad. It was so bad. Sean told all of us to throw it out. Like I remember all of us threw our copies in the bin. And he said, "But when it comes to credit, I really want my buddy to get some credit on this movie because he's not doing well and he's going to lose his Writers Guild insurance." And so, yeah.
I was going to actually ask you about Jay Hughley because he's credited as the co-story writer and co-screenplay writer, but he's somebody who I've never heard be referenced to in regards to Jason Goes to Hell.
No, that was something. Look, Sean is all about figuring out a way to game the unions. That is definitely a Sean playbook thing. And by the way, it's part of what's going on with his lawsuit with Victor Miller, is him gaming Victor the same way he gamed Dean and I many times. So I know who the truth teller is in that situation, because he did the same thing to me. Here's the thing. Sean wanted to help his friend, which I really respect and I think is a beautiful thing. Dean and I were young enough that we weren't so hungry that we were like, don't give a shit about this guy. We cared. In fact, I don't even know if we ever even had a meeting with Jay in person. That's how ill he was, actually. So we both said, okay, we both agreed, like we would share credit. Dean really wanted to be a writer. I was busy being a director. And I said, great, you take screenplay credit, I'll take story credit, and we'll share with Jay. And we both agreed to that. So that's how that went down. When it comes down to the script, look, Dean and I worked together on it for a long time. Then Dean did a couple of passes that were truly Dean passes. And then I was brought back in to do some polishing on that final pass. The movie that we ended up with is pretty close to the script. It's not that far off. It's really not. There was a lot more character development for everybody, mostly Creighton. Creighton had a whole backstory, which was awesome. We had his girlfriend who Stephen Williams always referred to as Mary Rottencrotch. It's like, wow, Stephen. But that the interpersonal stuff was different and richer. But I shot all of it. I shot every page of the script. There was nothing that was cut from the script. And then we added stuff after the first screening that Peter was a contributor to. And we added the camper sequence, which I love that sequence. And I lied to this day. I'm still friendly with all the actors that are in that sequence. So I love that sequence. And also sewed up some things, made sense of some stuff. Some rules were changed that made it a little cleaner. But for the most part, no. I got to tell you, I've been very lucky in that the films I've directed end up being more of the script than the films that I've just written. And I'm always happier with the results. And maybe that's narcissistic of me because I like my writing. I don't know. But I've always been lucky in that the movie that I write is the movie that I end up making. There is a huge exception with the movie Conspiracy, which Val Kilmer destroyed. And so that's, that movie I did not get to really do what I wanted to do. My cut of that movie I'm very proud of. The movie they put out is like a Steven Seagal movie. It's not good.
I plan on asking you about Mr. Kilmer here
momentarily.
You said nothing was off base. You said
nothing is. I'm not that guy.
Dean Lorey was somebody who got brought up quite a bit when I was talking to Todd Farmer, because Dean was instrumental in Todd Farmer hooking up with Sean Cunningham.
Yes.
What's he like to collaborate with?
Dean?
Yeah.
Oh, he's awesome. No, Dean was great. Look, the best thing about Dean is that we have very similar senses of humor. So you have to remember, I didn't just work with Dean. Dean and we lived together for years while making this movie and then after. So no, Dean's awesome. He's a terrific guy and he's very funny. It's very funny. We were going to do a lot more work together, but then he had kids, and suddenly Dean didn't want to do anything having to do with horror. Like, he's like, I don't want to put that in the world. I'm done with that stuff. And I was still, deeply entrenched in it. So I was like, okay. But I will tell you, my second film, which was a romantic comedy, Let It Snow, Dean put money into that movie. So no, Dean's an amazing guy. He's a great dude, and he's a very, very funny writer.
The two of your commentary on the Jason Goes to Hell is just a riot.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
So
My favorite thing about that commentary is that when the DVD got reviewed years later, because the movie came out and then the DVD was like a decade later when we did it. We had critics that reviewed it, and they would say terrible things about the movie, and then go into the commentary and go like, well, forget everything we said about the movie, because this is the most entertaining commentary we've ever heard. And there was one critic who did not like Jason Goes to Hell, who said, I truly hope Marcus and Laurie get to make more movies just so I can get more of their commentaries. So I see that as a win. We recorded that at a place called Margarita Mix, where they served you margaritas while you did the commentary.
Nice.
And now the thing is, I don't drink. So there I am with a Diet Coke, and Dean is drinking margaritas. And so if you really listen to the commentary, you will hear Dean Lorey getting more and more drunk through the commentary. And I stay sober as a judge, which is only funnier because I start making fun of Dean while we're doing the commentary. So
yeah, great. If you guys have not listened to the commentary on the unrated Jason Goes to Hell, you absolutely should. It's awesome.
And by the way, that commentary, because that commentary has never been put on Blu-ray, but that's part of the new Blu-ray set. Also, so that commentary is there, but there's a second commentary, which is Peter and I talking about the movie while watching the film. So there's a second commentary track on there, which is Peter and I.
Brand new commentary with Adam and Peter on the upcoming Friday the 13th box set. And from my understanding, Peter was sloshed the entire time.
I was
completely. It's the only look. And by the way, it's why I insisted I would not make the documentary. I would not have my company produce the documentary Hearts of Darkness if Peter didn't come in to interview everybody. One, because again, Library of Alexandria of quite frankly of slasher movies. Forget about Friday, all slasher. You know, his knowledge base on Scream is like it would put anyone to shame. Nev Campbell doesn't know.
Shameless plug.
It's true. But I have to tell you, it was simply that I knew Peter would be drunk the entire time. So when you know that, you know, it's a party every time you come to set.
That's Peter. For every future commentary you do with people, Peter, ply them with alcohol. Just alcohol all around the room.
But just you wait, a couple other commentaries we did, some of the people aren't drunk and they seem like they are. But
that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
I could say that was one of the easiest conversations I've ever had.
Yeah.
We had a good time, you and I.
It flew by.
I couldn't believe the movie was over. I was like, are we done? Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we did the deleted scenes too, right?
Yeah, we did everything.
And a couple people have asked in the chat. Yes, the unrated cut is on the box set.
Oh hell yeah!
So
hell yeah,
yeah. We did the unrated cut.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been involved if it wasn't. I was like, we don't need another Blu-ray of the neutered version of my movie. No, I'm good.
Again, every time I think like, how could they not have put the unrated cut? Because the unrated cut is the definitive cut of this movie. It was. I mean that's the only cut you ever rented or you ever watched.
Yeah.
So I mean.
If that's what's on streaming, which was weird to me because you could buy the uncut HD version from iTunes.
Yep.
And it wasn't on the. It was very bizarre. I don't know why they did that.
Well, here's the thing. It's because they put both Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X on one disc in that package. So there was no room for both cuts of the movie. So they because we were the New Line, we were the redheaded stepchildren. That's the problem, and it wasn't New Line putting that out.
They needed to save that extra 75 cents for that extra disc pressing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
yes. Exactly.
Oh Lord! So you were 21 or 23 when you started filming Jason Goes to Hell.
I was 20. I was 23 when I started shooting the movie. I turned 24 while shooting it.
Now, at the time,
your birthday, yeah.
At the time, you were the youngest person to ever direct a major motion picture. Is that correct?
I was the youngest person to write and direct.
Write and direct.
Picture. Yeah.
But you were younger than Spielberg when he directed his first movie.
Yes. Yeah. I was younger than Orson Welles, which makes me very, very proud. Which, by the way, is why the name of the original name of the movie was Hearts of Darkness. That's why. Because Orson Welles' first movie when he was 23, the first movie he wanted to make was Hearts of Darkness. And I was just pretentious enough, film school student, that when I went to make this movie and I knew it was all about this beating heart, I was like, I'm going to make Friday the 13th the Heart of Darkness. And it was all because of Welles. That's 100% true.
Was The Ninth Life of Jason Voorhees is an alternate title too.
That was also
one
an
of the scripts
alternate
is out. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah.
Well, was there ever a day on set where you were just like, oh my, I've bitten off more than I can chew here. I'm like in over my head. Was there any day like that on the set?
Only one. Only one. The first day.
Wow.
And it's because
your shot list?
My shot list.
Yeah.
My shot list. I walked on set with a shot list that was about 50 shots. And my first AD, Sam Mahoney, who then became Quentin's first AD, Sam, who's amazing first. He saw the list, was like, oh, all right, well, I'm going to go show this to Sean and to the DP. And I was like, okay, bye. See ya. And then suddenly 3 very concerned people walked up. And Sean was like, what are you, an idiot? You can shoot half of this. You get to have half. 20. I'll give you 20 shots for the day. I was like, what? I can do what? What? Now, remember, I was a film school student. I would shoot 60 shots in a day. But again, I didn't have a crew of 120 people. So it was a little different. And there's a photograph of me sitting at a picnic table in the front yard of the house we were shooting at because we were shooting Jessica's house. That was the first day. And I am sitting at this picnic table cutting shots. And I see the photograph and I go, the guy inside that, the brain inside that head right now is freaking the fuck out. But I walked over, I had cut it down. I think it was 23 shots. And by the end of the day, I had over 30 shots accomplished. So Sean was like, all right, got it.
Sean was like, you've got a career in this industry, son.
Well, I got to tell you, Sean was very, very, very proud of me for most of the shoot. It wasn't until the last week of the shoot that he and I had real trouble on set together. And then I was like, fuck off, dude. Like I'm delivering your movie. Like, you got to stop. I'm not a moron. You can't denigrate me in front of the crew. You can't. And my crew was really behind me by that point. So I had a little bit of pep in my step, and I wasn't putting up with it anymore.
Well, there's a rumor that I've heard frequently over the years, and this is the perfect segue to it, that you were actually fired toward the end of shooting, and that either Sean Cunningham completed the film or Sean Cunningham shot all of the reshoots.
Well, here's great. Okay, so Peter has interviewed now a ton of the cast and most of the crew, right? Yeah. From the documentary. And Peter, tell me if I'm wrong, but the common answer from the cast is, and this includes the reshoot cast. I don't remember Sean even being there. Yeah. He wasn't there. Okay. My cinematographer, Bill Dill, tells this story. So he says, Adam Marcus shot every frame of Jason Goes to Hell minus 3 shots that were of Carrie Keegan on the last day she was involved in the shoot, because Carrie and Adam weren't allowed to be on set together anymore because of Carrie's agent, because Carrie didn't want to do the nude scene and caused a big problem. Okay. So Sean Cunningham called Bill Dill when we were about to do the reshoots. By the way, reshoots that I actually wrote, gags that a cast that I hired and gags that I had done all of the artwork for with Bob Kurtzman. Okay. And by the way, Bob backs me up on this too. He calls Bill Dill and says, listen, Bill, I'm going to shoot the reshoots. I'm directing the reshoots. And Bill said, well, then you're going to have to find a different cinematographer and a different crew, because none of us will come back for you. This is Adam's movie. We're coming back for Adam. And Sean went, well, fine. All right. I guess I'll call Adam. And by the way, Sean didn't call me. I just came to set because I had written I had done all the work. I had prepped the whole thing. And then Sean wanted to somehow snooker the last 3 days out from under me. I shot every single scene of that movie. And one of my favorite moments is Adam Cranner, who plays Ward in the movie. Adam Cranner is a childhood friend of mine. Adam and I have known each other since we were 8 years old. Adam Cranner loves to tell a story about how Sean Cunningham directed his death when the arm breaks in the parking lot. Okay, there's an amazing photograph of me with Adam Cranner and Stephen Culp, and
it's in the book. Yeah.
It's in the book, and he's holding Adam's arm, and I am directing the two of them in the shot. So here's the thing: Adam Cranner became very close with Noel and Sean, and became sort of Team Sean. And so there was this mythology created that somehow I didn't direct the whole movie. It's a big fat fucking lie. It's just a lie. And here's what's great: I've got an entire documentary where every single person was asked this question with no bias. They were just asked, like, what do you remember about Sean? Was Sean there? All the, like, just kind of innocuous questions. Every single person including Harry Manfredini, who wasn't even there, whose response is, "Oh no, Sean let Adam make his movie. Sean didn't interfere with Adam. No, he didn't direct any of it. There's stuff on IMDb that says that he directed stuff in this movie, and I'm telling you, Sean's going to have to remove a lot of this stuff. Sean's going to have to change his tune on certain things because Sean's going to get his ass kicked by Victor Miller. He already has once. None of this has been smart from Team Sean.
Where did that story come out that Sean? Because in the book they did talk about the issue with Carrie Keegan and hurting her leg, but it's not in there that Sean directed. So where did that rumor start that Sean directed all these scenes?
That's a good question.
Where did that come from?
That's a good question.
I don't know, but it's on IMDb as factoids about the movie.
Yeah.
I've heard it from several people. I'm sure I've read it off of IMDb too. So
yeah.
It's just everyone, because having done so many interviews, like doing other interviews for Jason for Hearts of Darkness. I mean, the people's memory and specifics, you can't make that stuff up. Like, it's one thing if someone said, "Oh yeah, no, Sean didn't direct it," but like when people have specific memories of Adam or somebody on set, in the reshoots doing stuff, that kind of stuff you can't invent.
Yeah,
it's like it's so obvious. You know what I mean? Like, of course it's bullshit because you couldn't have Michael Silver remembering specific shots and Adam telling him to move his stuff there. You know what I mean? You don't remember specific details that way if you're lying. So it just doesn't make sense. It would be a conspiracy of epic proportions if you know what I mean? Everyone decided to get down and make up this whole story that Adam really. You know what I mean? So it's
suddenly like the parallax view of
yes,
the Friday 13th world.
Exactly. Yes.
You mentioned Bob Kurtzman, and KNB just did such fantastic work on that film. Jason Goes to Hell's like the wettest, slimiest, most the melting, the dude his jaw on the floor. I just love the effects in that movie, and of course the spear through the girl and ripping her in two. I mean, just phenomenal effects.
Thank you so much, dude. Thanks.
Yeah.
No, Bob is Bob's a mad genius. The whole team, look, Bob and Howard were really the geniuses on that movie from the standpoint of running the crew. Greg was definitely there on certain days, but Greg was more the money guy on that movie. I drove Greg nuts because Bob and I had become so close, and Bob was the second unit director on the movie. That Bob and I, we had such a bromance that Bob never said no to me for anything. So I kept asking for more shit. And Greg would come and be like, "Marcus, I've already lost money on this fucking movie. Stop telling him to bring you more stuff." And so much so, if you notice, there's the death in the parking lot of Andy Block, of Officer Josh's girlfriend, right? When she gets her head crushed in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I went to Bob and I was like, "Dude, I really want to crush this girl's head in the door." And he's like, "Adam, I can't put another effect in the movie. If I do, I'm telling you, Greg will murder me." And I said, "All right, hang on a second." And I start running around and I got some foam core and I wrapped it, right? I wrapped this piece of foam. And the girl who was playing the Josh's girlfriend was our assistant casting director, Diana. She was amazing woman, and great casting director, but a wonderful actress. So I was like, "I want to put you in the movie. Let's get you in the movie." So she, we had her in this like ridiculous wig for the part because her hair was wrong for this kind of. I wanted this sort of like Mrs. Kravitz-y kind of character, and so I took the wig off her, stretched it over this piece of foam, put the foam in the door, and shot the door hitting the foam. That's what's in the movie. That's the actual effect in the movie.
A styrofoam head.
It's not even a styrofoam head. It's like a soft, squishy piece of foam that would contract the minute that door hit it. And you put the right sound effect in, boom. And I remember we were on set. That's, by the way, that's the night before we broke Adam Craner's arm. And Bob Kurtzman walked up to me and was like, "Dude, we will work together the rest of our lives. When I saw you do that," he said, "that's being a filmmaker." He said, "Most people, they got to spend 10 grand on that effect. And you literally just took her wig and smashed it in the door." I was like, And it's great. People scream at that effect. By the way, the finger breaks.
Mhm.
That's just John LeMay going, ah, and us putting in a sound effect. And then Bob put a little bit of bruising around the knuckles in each successive break. We didn't break anything. We didn't have a fake hand. We didn't have anything. We just had two actors do their job. So there's so much that can be done that's effective that costs you nothing. And what's awesome is that Kurtzman got that. Like, Kurtzman never fought me on, let's do the low-tech version. Let's let the actor tell us that story. And Kurtzman was all in on that. And it's why Kurtzman and I work together to this day. I adore Bob. Yeah.
Well, and because of all this, all the wetness and the slime and the pus, the MPAA didn't even finish the movie before they didn't even, they stopped it halfway through and said, no, just send
They
it back.
turned it off after the camper. They turned it off.
Okay. So not even halfway through the movie, they're like, no, this is no.
Yep.
How many times did you have to submit it before they finally gave you an R?
Only 2 times, which
Oh.
was horrifying because we tore the guts out of the movie, literally and figuratively. Because Sean was like, we're fucked. Like, if we don't do, because again, with the MPAA, you only get 2 bites of the apple. And then they just go, bye, and you don't get the certificate, and you can't get the certificate. So the other thing is, Sean famously is the guy who sent a copy of a very edited version of the original Friday 13th and then put the stuff back in and released that film.
So did Wes Craven on Last House.
So these are, Sean, I had a target on my back I didn't even know had been put there, and Sean is the one who put it there. He put it there with every filmmaker who worked with him because the MPAA was like, oh, it's a Sean Cunningham movie. He's going to screw us again, so we're going to get him first. They didn't even watch the movie.
Did it help to know that an unrated version probably was going to come out on video? Did that help?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It still killed me every time I would see that damn rated version in the theater. It tore my heart out of my chest because I'm like, it's not the movie. And here's the other part. Fuck the MPAA. Like, fuck them. And by the way, I love that now they are the eunuch of our industry. I really do. Like, they mean nothing now because
Especially
we're watching
television.
We're watching everything on streaming. They have no jurisdiction anymore. Nobody cares if your movie's rated. And I'm sorry, do we go to see a Friday 13th movie because we don't like gore? Like, that's what we're going for God's sakes.
Well, I mean, the stuff you see on TV, you would. I mean, the movies now that are rated R from that period, like Jason Lives looks like a PG movie.
Yes.
I mean, that would be PG. Yeah.
Yes, totally. I love that movie.
And like pretty much all of the old Fridays, the ones that were hacked up the worst by the MPAA today would easily get R's. They slide those through lickety split.
Yep.
I've seen more violent stuff on cable television, on Sons of Anarchy, than on some of the stuff that was cut out. Yeah.
Guys, I mean, look at Game of Thrones, for God's sakes. Like, I mean, so vicious, and we couldn't have gotten away with any of that stuff back then. No way.
No way. Thank God for the unrated cuts.
Damn Skippy.
All right, let's play Fact or Fiction again. Steven, John D. LeMay's character was originally intended to be Tommy Jarvis.
Yes, true, fact, 100%. But we didn't have the rights. We had no rights to anything in this movie. Truly, no rights whatsoever, except for anything that had been in the original screenplay. That's what we were allowed to use. So we could talk about Pamela, Jason, Crystal Lake. They gave us the hockey mask because they were buying the Jason character in Totem. But that's it.
That's the reason why that's not called Friday the 13th. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, we're not even allowed to use that title. Yeah.
I did love seeing John D. LeMay in the film because it bridged the television series with the movie series, and I love the television series, and I love John LeMay's character. So that was just another like oh my God, it's the dude from the series in this movie. Like, this is perfect.
He's also, here's the thing, John is like truly one of the nicest, kindest men I've ever worked with. He's like, there's just a gentle soul to the guy. So he's really fun to be around. He's the one thing I would say about John is that he has very little sense of humor as an actor. So you're like, I'd be like, listen, this guy is more like, he's kind of like John McClane. Like, I want you to think of him as like this guy who's a little bit of a loser and down on his luck. And he's the, come out to the coast, we'll have a Christmas turkey. He's that guy. And John LeMay was like, he's Hamlet. I'm like, no, Die Hard, not Hamlet, Die Hard, Hamlet. So there are literally comedic scenes that John had in the movie that we had to reshoot a couple times because it's not where his head went. He's not that guy. But he is such a conscientious, wonderful, sweet man and such a good actor. Just an honesty about him that's just awesome, and an aw shucksness to him that's just super cool. It's a great guy. Great guy.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I actually think it's good that it wasn't Tommy Jarvis, because to me, that's kind of my question is, did the theme, I see the theme of the movie, and we talk about this in Hearts of Darkness a little bit, is that I'm a big theme guy. So there's the plot of the movie, what happens, and the theme is what the movie's really about. And to me, it's about a guy, John LeMay's character, who learns to be a man and takes on adult responsibility. Because he's the kind of guy who's shirking his responsibilities, blah, blah, blah. And so finally he stands up, he becomes a man, and he gets the girl at the end and the kid. Was that a theme that was conscious to you, or did that just emerge? Because if it was Tommy Jarvis, that wouldn't work. You know what I mean? That story, that theme.
Here was the thing about Tommy Jarvis, because it was still the same construction with Tommy Jarvis. It was still the pregnancy and all of that. What I liked about Tommy Jarvis, and by the way, which it still extends into the film as it is, what I liked about Tommy Jarvis was I was like, okay, so here's this guy who killing Jason Voorhees is almost his high school glory days. It's almost his winning the big football game. And now he's got no purpose. He's got nothing. So the idea was that this guy is still living in Crystal Lake. He's still living in this fucking town, and he's nobody and nothing, and he's made nothing of his life. And originally we had like bar bets that he was making at the diner. He's making all these bets while being drunk off his ass, where he's doing these sort of death-defying things because he needs the thrill of going up against Jason. And so it was still about him finding responsibility and becoming a man. And for me, the theme of the movie was for me to bookend from the original film, because the original movie is about a mother who loses her son. I wanted our film to be a father who finds his daughter. And that was sort of what I was doing. But that's why I wanted it to be Tommy. By the way, I probably still would have hired John LeMay to play it. Literally, Tommy Jarvis was never played by the same actor twice. So for me, there was something to the idea of, isn't it beautiful if this Jason Hunter ends up, that's his high school football game.
He's Al Bundy. He's turned into Al Bundy.
Yes.
He's also kind of Jaws too, a little bit, with Brody when, he used to be Man of the Year.
And now he doesn't have a purpose. There's no purpose in him.
You can still draw those connections between Steven and Tommy Jarvis, even though.
Yeah, that's true.
It
makes sense now you explain that. Yeah.
Maybe Tommy Jarvis just changed his name to Steven because he didn't want the stigma of Jason in his life anymore.
It was the whole witness protection program thing, because he's the one who tipped the FBI off to Jason, so he had to change his name.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. That's interesting. Let's talk about the Duke.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Duke. Now, I have a theory about the Duke, which I've shared with Peter, and he is in full agreement with me. My theory about the Duke. And first, can we just mention how great Stephen Williams is in this movie?
Dude, here's the thing. He's so great in the movie, and he's just so great. Stephen Williams is great. By the way, the fact that Stephen Williams is still alive, the kind of punishment that man puts his body through, he is the party animal of the century. Like, I've never, by the way, on my set all those years ago, to this day, he is a madman, and an amazing actor. God, I love him. I love him. I love him.
He and John D. LeMay need to get on the convention circuit, because I'd love to meet them both. It would be so fun to meet them both.
Yep.
But my theory about the Duke is that Creighton Duke is actually the grown-up Reggie the Reckless from A New Beginning, and he has become a Jason obsessed bounty hunter. Please tell me that's true. Even if it's not, tell me it's true.
It's so true. My God, you finally cracked the Da Vinci Code of this movie.
I've been saying it for years. The director has confirmed it. I will spread this all over the internet.
Before this started, Justin slipped Adam a $20 bill.
Jesus, I'm cheaper than that. No, I will tell you, I've heard that floated around before, actually, and I have to tell you, I think that's adorable. Like, I kind of love that idea, but sadly, no. Look, the Bracke timeline is fucked up enough as it is. I don't got to add to that pain.
Tell us about his backstory that was cut out of the movie.
Oh, you mean with Mary Rottencrotch?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The background story is that Creighton, as a teenager, was madly in love with this young woman. He was going to propose marriage to her because she had gotten pregnant.
It was Pam from The New Beginning, right?
It's Pam Grier.
Sorry. Oh, wonderful.
Yes. It was Foxy Brown. No, they're out on Crystal Lake, and he's about to propose, and the boat capsizes. Something comes up from underneath and capsizes the boat. And Creighton watches Jason grab his love from behind, yank her down into the depths. He dives down to try to find her, and she's gone. And from that moment, as a teenager on, he becomes obsessed with getting that guy. And he becomes a bounty hunter to be able to pay for all the things he needs in order to fight Jason and in order to investigate Jason. And that's where he starts coming across all of the magical elements that make Jason what he is. So that's his backstory. He is his own spirit of vengeance. So I want it to be sort of the flip side of Jason, that they're kind of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
It's also why he's a sadist.
Yeah, that finger break. He takes way too much pleasure in breaking Steven's fingers.
Yep.
There's been a rumor for a few years that you are working on a Duke prequel. Is this going to happen?
No, I'm not working on a Duke prequel. I am working on a Duke inspired sequel. It's inspired. It's not a Duke movie. It's just inspired by my work with Steven, because Steven and I really wanted to work together all these years. We wanted to get back in action together. And so I've come up with something that, it has a lot of the flavor of what we did before. It's just, by copyright reasons, I can't use the name Creighton Duke. So It's just Adam Marcus and Stephen Williams getting together again. And he might be in a black duster, and he might wear a back brace from getting his back broken many years ago. And he might be fighting armies of the dead. That might be happening too.
I would love that. I know a lot of people in the chat who are singing the Duke's praises would also love that. So,
Yeah, we have a badass movie that we're working on together. Yeah,
that's awesome. Hey, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
I love Steven. I will work with him any day. When you guys went to his house, because I didn't go with them for the interview. I met with Steven later that week. But when they went for the interview, Steven came to the door of his home, no shirt, a beer in one hand, a knife in the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. That's usually how I greet the Jehovah's Witnesses that show up on my doorstep.
And didn't he say something to the effect of like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Actually, I missed that part because I was running the car. So I remember I saw it first. Yes, I saw it. But I think Allie has all the scoop on that.
Yes. Peter was running away at that point when
I was.
I am out of here.
Yeah.
That would have been quite a sight to see the Duke. He's got a beer in one hand, a knife in the other.
And the other thing is, he's like. I think he has a portrait of himself aging in an attic somewhere, because he is the same person. Like he looked like he just stepped off our set.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yep. Yeah, he's cool.
What was the fan reaction to Jason Goes to Hell like, Peter, when it was first released?
I guess it's pretty much what I was part of it too, because me and Adam had talked about it.
Yeah.
I was of the age where I had 8 Friday 13th movies behind me. So my expectations and the pressure I put on the movie was I wanted it to make me feel like I was 10 years old again. And I think it happens to a lot of fan movies, right? Star Wars or any big franchise, so it took me a while because I was like, there's not enough, I want the same. It's exactly what you said. Like we said, we want something different, but really we want the exact same thing. So it was only years later that I could appreciate it for what it was. But there's a lot of people that liked it, loved it, thought it was different and cool. So like my friend, she really enjoyed it because she wasn't really a Friday the 13th fan. So she's like, oh, this is cool. She loves action movies. Her favorite movie was Evil Dead 2. So she was really into she was totally, so she was like, oh, so, again, it's part 9 of something too. So like, I don't know how you feel, Adam, but it's very hard for a part 9 to go back to being a mainstream thing to pull anything in but the diehard fans.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah.
And I found that everybody who saw the movie, not as anyone who saw the movie as their first Friday the 13th experience, like really loves the movie.
Yeah.
And then they go back and look at the other movies and they're like, wait, but why isn't there body hopping? Like what's going on? Like, it's not as interesting as that. And anyone who is a diehard from the early movies, not even the first one, but like the third and the fourth, those folks are like, fucking mask. Why is there a fucking mask in the movie? And I get it. And by the way, I don't blame anybody for that. That's what you came to see. Look,
it's all expectations.
You came to see a wrestling match, and I took your favorite wrestler out of the match. I got it. Yeah.
I'd seen all the films many times before I saw Jason Goes to Hell with my church youth group after church one Sunday evening.
That makes perfect sense though.
I don't remember how. Go ahead.
I would say it makes perfect sense because, right, like the morality of it, like, you drink, you have sex, you die. Like, was a youth group taking you to teach you the evils of sin, or
maybe that was it. I don't know. I just remember, like, I don't remember where the idea came from, but it was like, hey, do you want to go watch Jason Goes to Hell? We're going to load into one of the guys' mom's van and go. And I was like,
awesome.
Is this a joke? What?
Story.
And I said, well, yeah, of course. We loaded in the back of this dude's van. The mother and the daughter went and watched Hocus Pocus, and like 6 of us guys went and watched Jason Goes to Hell. And my memory of it is packed theater, riotous crowd. Just eating up every minute of it. I was eating up every minute of it. And at the end, when Freddy pulled Jason's mask down into the bowels of hell, I felt my head bounce off the ceiling. The theater erupted. And of course, on the ride home, everybody was talking about Freddy versus Jason and who's going to win. And, Freddy will be Jason, Jason will be Freddy. We took sides and, I don't recall telling the mother just how violent and gory it was. But it was really one of the best. It was one of the most fun experiences of my young life. It was the first Jason movie I'd ever seen in the theater. And it was the very first time I'd ever gone to the theater. Because in my small town, we didn't even have a theater. So we had to drive 20, 30 minutes to the next town just to go to a theater. So.
Dude, it's amazing. It's such a good story. It's like crazy good story.
Yeah. So I love the movie because of that. But even if I just saw it on video, I still would have loved it because of what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But yeah, when I got to meet you at Horror Hound a couple of years ago, I actually met up with my buddy Vincent DeSante, who directed Never Hike Alone. Yeah. And we met there and we chatted for a few minutes. And he was like, "Do you want to go on the floor?" And I said, "Take me to Adam Marcus." Because I'd waited all these years to tell Adam Marcus my story, and so it was a lot of fun. It was really cool.
Is that the point when Adam called the security on you?
I think so. I think so.
Hit the button under the table.
Yeah, it's like if that guy comes back, just grab him.
Well, and Kane and I were sharing a table, so
That's
I could
right.
just have Kane deal with it.
Kane could have taken care of it. Yeah. Kane could have taken care of it. But yeah, that was just that was like just the experience of getting to finally tell you that after all these years was very cool too.
It's awesome. And the minute you brought up the story again, I was like, of course. Totally remember that.
So I mean, of course, Jason Goes to Hell is a bit of a divisive entry in the series. But what has your encounters been with fans online and at conventions?
Well, divisive again, because people have a love-hate relationship with the movie. So I find that as time goes on, however, more and more people seem to be fans of it. And it seems to be growing in popularity, which is amazing. Look, the people who love the hockey mask, I get comments like, "I hope you die of ass cancer."
Wow.
I've been told that 3 times, by the way, which is amazing because I'm like, "Oh, it's such a specific form of cancer."
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It really is. Ass cancer 3 times. If you say it 3 times, Candyman appears. But here's the thing: I actually don't no. But I am. I have to say, most of my fan interaction is pretty extraordinary. When I get someone who is really rabid about hating the movie, I try my best to engage them. I also I always come from the place of cool. That's okay. Like, not every movie is for everybody. Tell me why you don't like it. And I am telling you, it always comes down to the same thing. It is always the same thing. It is always the mask. It is always the mask, always the mask, always the mask. Why is it Jason in the fucking Jason movie? And every once in a while, I will get, I hate the body hopping thing, fucking stupid. But what's amazing is how many fans say to me, well, I mean, if it wasn't a Friday movie, it'd be fucking cool. I'm like, so it's a good movie. You just don't like that it's a Friday movie.
Well,
Cool. And again, I get it.
It's like Halloween 3.
And technically, it's a Jason movie. See, what I like to think of with the New Line Jason movies and the remake is that you've got the first 8 movies. They take place in their own universe, and the New Line movies are what ifs. Every comic had the what if issue.
Sure.
Well, Jason Goes to Hell is what if Jason gets blown to bits and he's a body hopping slug. Jason X is what if Jason went to space. What if Freddy versus Jason is what if Freddy and Jason duked it out and blah blah blah. Sure. There you go. That's how you accept them. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Look, again, I got to tell you, I come from the point of view of like I made a movie that is what it is. What I find beautiful about it is that because it's so divisive, people are still talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got our Indiegogo thing. It was funded like that, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's because there were people who wanted us to make a documentary about this movie. I find that extraordinary. I was like, because originally I didn't want to make a doc about this, and then they started a fan page on Facebook, and suddenly we had thousands of fans, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? I guess I should go make this movie. Like, I guess we should produce this documentary. And that's why that happened. Because there is a huge fan base, and I gotta be honest with you. Look, when I go to conventions, and I talk to people like yourself, dude, the nicest, kindest group of people, and even the ones who have a little bit of a stick in their craw about it, if they talk to me for a couple of minutes, suddenly they're like, I love the effects, I love the actors, I like, they love the story, they love so much of it. They just hate that I blew up Jason's hockey mask. There's a part of me that wishes I had just had each person who became Jason put on a goddamn hockey mask. End of problem.
Well, I mean, originally wasn't like, when as the bodies started to deteriorate, you'd see like a mask trying to come through.
Yes, that was originally what I wanted to do. Was just it was we couldn't do it cost wise, and there was no such thing as digital back then. It was all of the quote unquote digital in the movie is hand drawn animation by Al Magliacetti. So it's not it just couldn't happen cost wise, but it was in the script that you started to see the edge of the mask, that you started to see the mask poking through the flesh. Yeah. So Again, everybody's welcome to their opinion. Quite frankly, if the movie wasn't as divisive as it is, I don't think that people would be talking about it 27 years later.
Oh, absolutely. It's much better. Yeah, it's much better to have a movie that people love or hate than one that just is. That's
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I mean, you made a good point there, Adam, because it seemed like for a long time, like part 5 was the black sheep. But then over the last several years, people have seemed to warm to that one. Now I see that really happening with Jason Goes to Hell. I mean, you look at your fan page, there's how many thousands of people on that page. And I mean, it just seems like if nobody cared about Jason Goes to Hell, there wouldn't be, NECA wouldn't make Jason Goes to Hell figures.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of Jason Goes to Hell figures.
Well, by the way, when they did the video game, when they ran the contest for what would be the specialty look for Jason, what was the fans, it was a giant first to second place. Jason Goes to Hell was the look everybody wanted. Everybody wanted that look. And even Kane was surprised. Kane called me, was like, "You're not going to believe this. Like, the fans want Jason Goes to Hell." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, the fans want it because it's badass." So yeah, look, again, I would love for people who've seen the movie maybe once and had a negative reaction to it to look at it again, and they might rediscover it. They might hate it more. I don't know, but I think it's one of those movies that if you do go back and give it a serious once over, you see that there's a lot going on, and that honestly, it was a movie that was really being made for the fans. That's not lip service. Like, I was a huge Uber fan of these movies. I wanted to make something that filled my fandom. So that's really what we were doing. Like, we were trying to do something. And look, by the way, I also kind of wanted to make a monster movie.
Yeah.
Like, let's make a monster movie.
Yeah.
We've done the slasher thing to death. We're still going to have him slash the shit out of people, but let's make it a big old horror movie. And so that's kind of what I was going for.
Have you sensed the changing of the tide with Jason Goes to Hell among the fans, Peter?
Big time. Oh, Peter.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's, I mean, the biggest thing is meeting young, I call them young kids now because I'm old. Kids, they're kids. Like, I've met so many people that are like, oh, I watched all the Friday things out of order on video. They had no idea the reaction. There's something John Carpenter said, paraphrasing, but he said, at a certain point, your movie becomes divorced from the situation it was released in. So, like, kids today who see Blade Runner or The Thing, they don't think of it as a box office bomb. Like, to them, like, oh, they hear it, The Thing's a classic. So they're watching it from point of view of like, this is a classic. Same with Blade Runner. And like, so the kids are talking with me, Jason Goes to Hell, like, oh, that was the first, like you, Piz, or they're like, this is the first one I saw. I loved it. They have they're unburdened by the expectations like I had. Like, they're not trying to make it live up to some sort of expectation that they're going to feel like they were when they were 10 or anything like that. So it's just fascinating to talk to them because they look and see things like, they love the fact that like it's like an expanded universe, that it brought in all these other movies and references, or they love that it's action or that it's a monster movie. And one kid told me something very interesting. He's like, I don't get why people don't like Jason Goes to Hell, because he's like, Jason was a monster like in Jason Lives and New Blood and Manhattan. He was running around boxing, like he was already a monster. So like, what's the big deal? I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of right. So you're totally right. So it's great to see people come into something fresh without preconceptions. It's not fair to a movie.
And by the way, I mean, I love what you just said about Jason Takes Manhattan, about the boxing. It's like Jason Takes Manhattan shows you what having wall-to-wall Jason at that point gives you. Like, that movie is wall-to-wall Jason, okay? And is it like, is that a good movie?
Well, but it's weird that people, like, I've heard people that say, oh, I don't like Jason Goes to Hell, but I love Jason Takes Manhattan. It's like, it's weird because you would think that if they don't like action Jason or whatever, they're complaining about Jason Goes to Hell, why would then like Jason Takes Manhattan? Because like, it wasn't like, some of the things you did with Jason were radical, but some things weren't radical.
Right.
Like, I feel like the movie's getting blamed for, making Jason so different, but he'd already done some of those things that people criticize it for. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I love Jason Takes Manhattan, but I love it in a different way than I love Jason Goes to Hell, because I think a lot of, especially with the first 8 movies, so much of it is the rose-tinted nostalgia. You know what I mean?
Sure, of course.
I can't say anything negative about those movies. I just love them so much.
It's awesome, dude. You're awesome.
Yeah.
You're awesome.
I mean, with Jason Goes to, it's like I like that movie for a different. I love the movie for a different reason. I don't have to have, yes, I watched it in the theater and it was such a great experience. But again, if I'd only seen it on video out of the video store, I'd still be like, oh wow, this thing's doing something I've never seen before in this kind of movie.
Right. But like, for example, I will tell you that for me, as a kid who grew up with these movies and loved these movies, and I loved Jason Takes Manhattan when I saw it, except that I was pissed off because I lived in Manhattan and went, that's not Manhattan. And, and why are we on a boat for 60 minutes for this movie? And what is this? That being said, I think Part 5, even back then, was a better movie. From a storytelling standpoint, from a grime under the fingernail standpoint, and from and there's something about Jason Takes Manhattan that feels like a parody. It doesn't feel like a straight Friday the 13th movie. It feels like a joke.
It definitely feels like it's halfway realized and like. I did a ranking video where I talked about each one and I ranked them. And at the end of my Part 8 little synopsis, I said, it feels like it's the product of a very short deadline and a lot of cocaine.
Yes.
That's
yes.
Part 5, right?
Part 5, it, like, never has a director's signature been more realized. Part 5 is just sleazy, which is kind of great.
Well, see, that's the problem. That's the part. Even as a kid, like I don't like. I'm not particularly sleazy. Like, there's a fine line when I start feeling bad for the actresses in the movie.
Got it. I get that.
That's where I'm like,
I get that.
Like that's where. Yeah.
I hear you.
I know Piz loves Part 5. What I blame Part 5 for, that is the first one to me where it was like more deaths are better. We can just introduce a character for literally 2 minutes and kill them. I'm one of those viewers that I need at least a few minutes with the character to care. So there wasn't enough. There was just too many. Like, that's why I like what Jason Goes How it brought back characters that you were trying to develop. Like, I can remember who John LeMay is and Carrie. I remember those characters. They live on. Where's like Part 5? Like, who's the girl in the one in when the guy goes to pick her up?
Her name is Violet. Oh, I was gonna say her name is Violet. Damn it.
No, I love Violet. We all remember Violet, the robot dance. She was the other one. She's like, it's showtime. Shows her like those kind of things. Like
Lana.
I just don't get it.
Her name is Lana, Peter. Her name is Lana.
Lana, that's it. Thank you. So, less Lana, more Violet.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was really badly articulated. But thank you. Sorry.
Did Jason Goes to Hell open up any doors for your career, Adam, or do you feel like it may have closed some doors?
I don't think it closed anything, only because it was my first movie. So any door that got opened were the first doors open to me. So the problem is that every door that opened, well, first off, I had a 3-picture deal at New Line, which died when Ted Turner came in and killed all the horror deals. So I had a great deal with people that I really like DeLuca and Ordesky. So, and then that just was gone. And even when we interviewed Mark Ordesky for the documentary, he was like, "Didn't we have a deal with you?" I'm like, "Yeah, you did." But I got offered like every sequel. Everything had a number after it. Everything had a part number. And I didn't want to be that guy. Like, I didn't want to be a guy who had a part number after every film he made. I wanted to make original stuff. And it's why I also didn't want to be pigeonholed. I was like, I have a lot of different stories I want to tell. I did not want to be Sean Cunningham. Like, I had no interest in that, even though that's a very lucrative thing. I was like, that's a boring life. Like, I want to tell stories. And so that's why the very next movie I made was a romantic comedy.
I was going to say, is Let It Snow, was that your attempt to not be put in a box?
No, you know what it was? It was my brother Kip, who had written my student film with me at NYU that won Best Picture at NYU. So You Like This Girl. He had written what almost amounted to a sequel to that movie as a play and then as a feature film. And he and I workshopped the script for many months, and I was working on other stuff. My writing partner Deborah Sullivan and I were already a team. We were already selling scripts, so I'd already sold a few things. But Kip brought me this movie, and I liked the movie. Like, I wanted to tell the story, so I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go make this. Like, let's go make this." And I did it outside of the studio. We raised our own money, and it became a huge thing at Sundance and AFI and LAIFF, and we won all these awards. And the next thing I know, I was writing a bunch of television and doing stuff. So it wasn't a conscious decision of like, I'm not going to do a horror film next. It was, I want to tell this story. Like, I like the world of this movie, and that's kind of been my career path. Like, I look, by the way, I always come back to horror because it's my favorite genre and I love it. And honestly, I love the people who work in horror. I love the fans of horror. They're better people in general than any other fandom. They're just good people. I think the fact that people work out all their tension and their anger and their rage and their bullshit in their viewing, I think settles us all down, and we're all collectively a nicer bunch. Like, you couldn't meet a nicer man than Wes Craven. You couldn't. He was just a doll. George Romero was a doll. Like, the real. By the way, Sean Cunningham really isn't a doll, and he hates horror movies. He's trapped in them. So it's the people who, Stephen King is a really sweet man. Well, that comes from excising your demons. And I think that that's what's great about horror fans, is that they are, there's an acceptance. We all come from the island of misfit toys. And I think we find this kind of beautiful collective family. So I always come back to horror, and it's where I am squarely now. But I think filmmakers should tell stories that turn them on, not stories that they have to tell because they have to feed some perception of their audience.
The thing that what I'd meant about Let It Snow and not being put in a box is because, I mean, Sean Cunningham is in the horror box. They've closed him up. They've taped him inside. He's not getting out. And so many people who even one horror movie, it's like, okay, he's a horror guy. They're never looked at for anything ever again.
Yep.
And you've done varied films. You've done horror, you've done action, you've done Let It Snow. So I mean, and
Secret, my latest Secret Santa is squarely a horror comedy. And it's actually where I had my most fun. Like, and by the way, Jason Goes to Hell has a lot of comedy in it. Like, there's no getting around that. So that's sort of where my heart goes. But yeah, I love the horror genre, and horror, they were my favorite movies as a kid. They're the movies that I'm most attracted to. It's the stuff that I put on when I want to just have a good time watching something. So yeah, I want to tell those stories. But again, I have to want to tell that story.
Right.
That's the point, So yeah, that's but no, Let It Snow. Yes, it was outside the box. No one, I liked that people couldn't define me all of a sudden. And by the way, here's what's really funny. After I made Let It Snow, no one wanted to talk to me about horror. They all wanted to talk about comedy. Everybody I met with, like, they wouldn't even discuss horror with me. And I'm like, wow, what? But it's whatever your last successful thing is, that's who you are now.
Yeah.
It's just the way that's the way people's brains work, I think.
Now, do you remember what any of the sequels that you were offered after Jason Goes to Hell were?
Yeah, Pumpkinhead 2.
Okay.
Yeah, Pumpkinhead 2 was the first thing up. I turned down the job specifically, not because it was a sequel, because I was going to get to work with a lot of people I love. I turned down the job because they would not let me cast black actors in their voodoo movie about the Bayou. What? And I was not allowed to hire black actors because black doesn't sell overseas. Swear to God. And I said, and I was like, fuck you guys.
Wow.
So yes, I walked from that movie for that reason. And if you look at Jason Goes to Hell, it's a very diverse film. That's important to me. It's also not ageist. I hate this idea of casting has to be about children, about cute Abercrombie and Fitch models. I can't stand it. I think stories have to be told the way the story looks honest. So I've been offered 4 Leprechaun sequels, but one was right around that time.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, 4 different sequels.
I hope Back to the Hood was one of them.
You bet it was.
Oh my goodness.
Back to the Hood.
The Hood, yeah.
Oh yeah. I was offered Amityville 97. Yeah, I got offered a lot of horror movies, dude.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
And
crazy.
I just didn't. No. I
More,
wanted
more true or false? I heard that you took meetings after Jason Goes to Hell with both Coppola and De Niro over projects. Is that true?
literally the week after the movie came out.
Wow. What were those projects?
Francis Ford Coppola talked to me about doing a ninja zombie movie. He was in love with horror at that point because he had just done Dracula and he was prepping to do Frankenstein.
That's right.
Like, he loved horror. And so Zoetrope was going to be this new horror. I just yanked my earphones right out of my head. This new horror studio. And so I was all excited. I was like, yeah, let's, yes, please. The fact that Francis Ford Coppola had seen the movie was so like mind blown.
Yeah.
And then De Niro's company flew me to New York to meet with me. And I had an amazing meeting with him and Jane. And one of my favorite moments is Robert De Niro, who, by the way, is a friend of my Uncle Ned's. Like, they've known each other for 40 years. Robert De Niro saying to me when he said, "I liked your movie." And I was like,
Wow.
I like your movie.
Good actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was
You're not so bad yourself, Mr. De Niro.
So that is a true story. Actually, I was telling Peter the day that we did the commentary for Jason Goes to Hell, that Dean Laurie and I did that commentary. It was amazing. We stopped in the middle of the commentary. We took a pause just so Dean could have more margaritas and also so we could sit for a moment and relax. And they brought a note into me from next door. And they said, there's another film that they're doing the commentary. They just finished up, but the director wanted me to give you this. And I opened up the note and it says, "I really loved your movie, Penny Marshall." And I was like,
that's hilarious.
Wow, like Penny Marshall, like Jason Goes to Hell? She did.
Wow.
Right.
That is cool, man.
Cool.
Still have to know. Yep.
That is awesome.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So you never know. Like, you don't know what people are going to vibe to, like what they're going to connect with. And again, I think this idea of it being a monster movie, I think that's kind of something that people got into. Also, it's a funny movie. Like, there's a lot of comedy in it. Look, Jason, Part 6 has always been my favorite. It just has. I connect to it for some reason. And Tom McLaughlin, I think his sense of humor is really smart and clever. And I just dig that movie. So Part 9, in some ways, is almost a direct sequel to Part 6, just from a standpoint of sense of humor. Yeah. So, and it's why I did a comedy next. I mean, I'm known for horror and for comedy. Those are the two genres that most people know me for. So
that is really cool.
Yeah.
We mentioned the never-ending lawsuit earlier. What's your thoughts on the lawsuit, and what do you think the potential implications of it will be for the industry in the future?
Peter.
Oh God. Thank you. Well, I'll be honest. My horrible bad feeling is just the amount of bad blood under the bridge is so great that there's not going to be a resolution, and it's one of those things where I just fear, God forbid, because eventually Victor and Sean will pass away. Once the kids or the estates of people get a hold of it, then it never ends.
Yeah.
Then it's just like no one's going to give it up. So I think it's going to take the judge like a final. It's going to be appealed until it gets whatever that. I'm not a lawyer. It's a Larry Zimmer question, but so I don't have a high hope. I think everyone wishes they would just sit down in a room and say, "Hey, let's just bury the hatchet. Let's do a great Jason movie for the fans and shake hands and share the money and just. But I don't think that's sadly. I don't think that's going to happen.
And
As far as implications, I don't know.
I think Victor would.
Yeah.
I think
But
Victor.
you remember we had the book party for Crystal Lake Memories in 2005. We were all thrilled because Victor drove up, and that was the first time in I think 12, 13 years that him and Sean met, and they were at the party together and they were talking and smiling. I remember all like, oh my God, maybe like this will be a great thing, but I don't know what happened after that. But
Hey, by the way, Sean talked and smiled with me too.
yeah, it's true. But at least they're in the same room, and it's nice, and because I mean now they will not even appear at conventions together.
Right.
So
yeah.
At least then they were. I thought maybe something nice would happen, but it's a shame. It's just a shame.
It is a shame. It is a shame. But the problem is that when somebody has 500 tons of jelly beans and they give you 2 jelly beans, that's a problem because Victor is the author of these movies. He's where it came from. And in the television world, Sean wouldn't get shit. Victor would be getting the spoils.
Well, it's in the book, so I can say, Victor even said, he's like, the hardest thing was just trying to read these stories where like George Lucas gave the cameraman on Star Wars points. Like, he's like, if Sean would just have given me a half a point.
Well, I have
saying,
points.
hey, I mean, like in the sense of like, hey, you did a good job. I appreciate your contribution.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's more about that than dollar amounts. If that makes sense.
Here's the thing. I have points on Jason Goes to Hell, and I have like significant points on Jason Goes to Hell. A producer gross.
That's cute. That's cute.
Sean bought Michael Jackson's first estate in Encino off of Jason Goes to Hell. That was literally where he moved into after Jason Goes to Hell came out and he made his money.
He still lives there. Yeah.
I have never seen $1 from that movie. Not $1.
Wow.
Yes.
Really?
So I know where Victor is coming from, and every time I see this lawsuit come up, I'm like, "Go, Victor!" So yeah.
Wow, do you just get residuals like from DVD?
Yeah, I got
okay,
residuals. I got Writers Guild residuals, but I wasn't in the DGA. I mean, I get.
Oh shit!
And by the way, I get writers residuals for the story credit. So yeah. I do get money from SAG though for playing Officer Bitch.
Hey, there you go.
There you go.
I do get that.
When I asked that question to Todd Farmer said, it would be great if you write a novel, it's yours. You own it.
Mm-hmm,
But if you write a screenplay, it's not yours. Doesn't matter.
Well, by the way, if you write a play, if you write a theatrical play, I produced a Neil Simon play a couple of years ago out here in LA. And when I produced the play, I sent a check. You know who I sent it to? Neil Simon. It doesn't matter that it was produced on Broadway. It doesn't matter who directed it, who produced it. Nobody cares. The person who gets the money for using that play is the author of that play. And this is why the WGA was a union born in blood. Because what they gave up in order to form a union, they gave up copyright. The minute they did that, they fucked every writer from here till the end of time.
Yeah, because even Crystal Lake Memories, I own the copyright of that book.
Mm-hmm.
The publisher gets distribution rights, but I get gross points. Like there's no. Yeah. Like even songwriting is the same way, right? Like you
as it should be.
Yeah, screenplays is I guess is the only thing, right? That's not like that. I suppose.
That's it, and it's because of the WGA.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that. Well, I guess the implications then are if this lawsuit could really have far-reaching ramifications for the whole.
Yes,
industry.
it could. The whole industry is watching the lawsuit. It's why everybody talks about it.
Yeah. And
Why is it taking so long?
Well, it's taking long because of COVID now. I mean, they were supposed to have an answer they're supposed to have an answer in May, and but they will not have an answer until next year.
And I mean, will a studio or a producer or whoever ever take a risk on a spec script, knowing that 20 or 30 years later the writer can come back and claim ownership of it if it's successful?
Well, here's the thing. It's not even just that. It's that Sean. So what Sean does with a young writer, and he did this with Dean Lorey, I watched it happen, is he says, "Ooh, here's this original piece of material you brought to me. But when you sell a piece of original material, the WGA does not give you your health insurance. You can sell a script for $1 million. They will not give you your health insurance. The only way you can get health insurance is if you've been hired as a writer. So I can be hired for a $30,000 rewrite and get my health insurance, and I can sell $1 million script and not get my health insurance.
Mhm.
That's true. Okay.
Okay.
So Sean tells you, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a contract together that says you wrote this for hire. So it's not an original piece of material, and you're going to get your health insurance. Well, as a young writer, you're like, awesome. You're the best guy ever, Sean. What he's doing is he is removing you as the sole author of that piece of material and saying, well, I'm the producer. I told him what to write. He just wrote it. And that's where the problem is. And Victor is saying, wait a second, you bought my original script. You put it in a contract so I could get my health insurance, but I wrote that script before I ever showed it to you. I handed you a done movie. You put the title Friday the 13th.
But it is a little confusing because Victor and Sean had both said that they met around the kitchen table. And Sean said, hey, Halloween, go watch Halloween, rip it off. Let's write a movie. So there's a joint. It wasn't like Victor wrote the script without knowing Sean brought it to
The idea is that Sean didn't hire Victor to write the script. There was no money exchanged hands at that point.
Oh, gotcha.
So Sean gives you money and then retroactively says you wrote this for me for pay, when in fact you didn't. You wrote it as a spec. And if you write a spec, it doesn't matter who talks to you about the spec. If you're the author of the spec, you are the author of that movie.
Yeah, I got you. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
I've gone out with spec scripts, right? And I've had major producers, right, who have loved the script, but they say, I would buy this if you did X, Y, and Z to it. And I get them to sign a piece of paper in front of me and say, you own nothing that you just gave me in notes. So if I go and rewrite this, I'll give you first right of refusal. I'll let you look at it first. But if you say no, you own nothing.
Sure.
But you have to get them to sign that.
Yeah.
I know how easily people can screw over writers. And suddenly, I have a claim on that script. No, you don't. You gave me some notes. I did all the work. It's easy to go, well, what if it happens in space? Well, okay, great. You're
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Complicated.
True thing.
Yeah. Gosh. So many ways for you to be screwed over.
Yep.
Gosh. You'd have to be a genius.
Never do net points. Too gross.
Yeah.
Always.
If you can do net anything, you never see it.
You're never getting a dime.
Net means never.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. There you go.
Yep.
Speaking of which, Piz, how much money are we getting for this broadcast tonight?
A net.
So much net. We're getting like 60% net.
You guys have a lot of net points in this stream. Let me tell you.
All he has to do is pay for that fireplace. Then we're gold.
That's it. I've got Sean Cunningham working on the contracts right now.
No. Actually, it's funny. No. Because when Peter reached out to me for the box set, because it was the first time Peter and I had spoken in almost a decade. And I said to him, I said, look, dude, if Sean Cunningham's going to be involved, I don't want to be involved. And I was lucky because Peter was like, actually, not really on Jason Goes to Hell. He's really going to be involved on Jason X. I was like, okay, then I'm in. But yeah, he's a pretty toxic dude, man. It's a shame because he's a brilliant producer. He's brilliant. And I owe him my career because he gave me my start. Absolutely. And I honor that completely. But I actually I'm one of these crazy people that actually thinks you should be a good person on top of it. And he's just not a very good guy. And he's been lying about me for years. I mean, like, the whole mask thing. It's just a lie.
Let's talk about a good guy. You directed Val Kilmer in a film called Conspiracy. Now there's
nice segue, by the way, brother. Nice segue. Yeah, that's good.
Now
I really thought you were talking about Nice Prayer. I was like,
this is great.
I've heard many a director who's worked with Mr. Kilmer have nothing but negative things to say about him. What was your experience working with Val Kilmer?
Okay.
You can see the wounds opening up on screen.
Yeah.
This is a true thing. On the sixth day of production, Val Kilmer physically assaulted me on set and kicked me in the nuts,
What?
taking me to the ground where the medics had to come in for me. And
Wow.
by the way, he wasn't mad at me. He was so drunk and so high, drunk on vodka, high on painkillers, that he did this, and he was giggling while he did it. And the reason was because I was setting up a shot on my set, and he wanted me to look at his Crocs because they were the first Crocs in the state of New Mexico, and he was very proud of getting these Crocs. And I said, "Yeah, Val, hang on one second. I'm just setting this up." So I turned to my cinematographer. Next thing, there was a pain to my nutsack like I have never felt. Well, I felt it once when I was 14 and playing Little League. But he kicked me right in the nuts, man. And that, by the way, that wasn't even my worst day on set with Val Kilmer.
My God.
Yeah. No, Val Kilmer is a monster. Fuck Val Kilmer. Fuck him. And fuck anybody who apologizes for him. Val Kilmer apologists, all of them, it's like this group of enablers. He is a bad man. He's a bad guy. He treats other actors like shit. I watched him make other actors cry. He's a guy who Gary Cole played the villain in the movie. Gary Cole's one of the finest actors I've ever worked with, and an extraordinary human being. Okay, let's put it this way. This is how cool Gary Cole is. If you ask Gary Cole at lunch while you're on set with him, if you go, dude, do Lundeberg. Come on, just do Lundeberg. He will stand up and immediately, with cup in hand, start telling you how, yeah, I'm going to need you to come in on Saturday. He immediately goes into it. Okay. That's how cool Gary Cole is. Like he loves that people know his work or know his name. He's so floored that he gets to work as an actor, and he's generous to a fault. Val Kilmer wouldn't stay on set to act opposite Gary in Gary's close-ups. That's true story. Jennifer Esposito wouldn't sleep with him, so he would stay on set for her close-ups and make faces at her while she was trying to work. He's a terrible man.
Jeez. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. The things that, by the way, I have an entire book called Val Kilmer's Kicked Me in the Nuts and Stole My Movie. And I'm telling you, like, I'm dying for him to try to sue me over it, because I have an entire cast and crew that have all backed me up on this. It was horrible. It was a horror show. Wow. It almost made me leave the business. It was so bad.
Wow. Jeez.
And what's incredible is the only people worse than Val Kilmer on that movie were the two lead producers. They were the only people. They kicked me in the nuts for the rest of the next year while I was trying to finish the film. But yeah, it was, and the whole thing was a setup. It was all a money scam to steal money from the film. Oh, dude, it was crazy. It was a $5 million.
Should make a documentary on that.
Yeah, it was by the way, I have a ton of behind the scenes footage. It was a $5 million I'm sorry, it was an $8 million film that I made for $1.6 million. That's true.
Jesus.
Val got paid $1.5 million. I got 1.6 to make the film. The rest of it was graft. And they got caught, by the way. They got caught. The producers got caught. What's incredible out of that, however, what's amazing about that experience is that the associate producer on the film, and it was the first movie that he got a producer credit on, was a young man named Brian Sexton, who
is he an actor too?
No, Brian's my partner. Brian Sexton is my producing partner. He's the 1/3 of Skeleton Crew. That's myself, my wife Deborah, and Brian. And Brian Sexton is the single finest producer I've ever known. And it came out of that movie. He's the only one who had my back on that film. He's the one who protected me. And he was an associate producer. Let's put it this way. Okay. The lead producer on the film, who he referred to as the drunken whore because she was always drunk and she slept with half my cast and crew. And that's not hyperbole, by the way. she was his boss. He started as her assistant, and Brian is gay, and he would have no problem with me saying this. She would call him faggot on my set.
Oh,
That's the kind of people I was working with on that film. And yeah, this is I'm telling you, like it's when you get involved with certain unscrupulous stuff that happens in our business, it's so bad. Like it's the kind of thing that like people make fun of about Hollywood. And I'm standing on that set going, wow, this is all real. Like this is a true thing that this happens. It was so foreign to me because I'd only had experiences with, really pretty great people. And no, there are a lot of monsters out there, man. There's a lot of bad folks. And Val is a bad guy. I know he's sick. I'm sorry that he's sick. That's terrible. I wish him no pain. But he's a guy who's caused a lot of people a lot of agony. Directors in particular.
oh. So at least the one ray of sunshine was that you hooked up with Brian. Though.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was the best turn that could have happened in my career. What were you gonna say?
So I apologize. I have about 8 minutes left. I have to get off at 9 p.m. my time.
Sure.
But you guys keep this is. I'll have to watch the rest. I can't believe we're talking almost 3 hours. It's amazing how fast.
Amazing.
It's gone. Yeah. How did Texas Chainsaw 3D come about? You mentioned movies that you've just written that you've not had the same kind of control over. I assume this may be that or an example of that. How did that movie come about?
It came about because we were represented by Evolution, which is a management company. Evolution was Mark Berg, and so it's the guy who made the Saw franchise. It's Twisted Films, Twisted Pictures. And so we were writers there, and Steve Gates, wonderful, wonderful manager, was our manager, and a woman named Evan Corday. They were kind of our management team. There was a guy there named Carl Mazzacone, who was Mark Berg's best friend since college. And Mark had gotten the rights for the Texas Chainsaw franchise and given them to Carl to produce under the Twisted banner. And Carl had a script that Deb and I had written that ended up getting made called Momentum. It was originally called Gravity, but it was his favorite screenplay he'd ever read. And so he really wanted to make that movie. Well, while he was trying to get that to happen, this chainsaw job came up because Steven Susko had written the movie for Lionsgate and Twisted, and they hated the movie. They hated his script, and they gave him notes. And he basically, and Steven's a maniac. I love Steven, but he's a maniac. He wrote, like they told him, you can't have any cannibalism in the movie. So he added more cannibalism to the movie. Like that's just Susko. That's just the dude he is. He's awesome. So anyway, they fired Steven, and they were going to hire new writers. So they were going to go out to the town, but Carl Mazzacone was like, what kind of movie would you guys want to make? So I described what we would do with a Texas Chainsaw sequel. And Carl loved our idea, loved the story we came up with, which started directly from the original film. It was like, what would happen once Sally got away from the house? She would go to the cops. Like, that's the next scene. Wouldn't the cops go right back to the house? Like, why is that not happening? Like, we should do that movie. So they loved that. And I said, we should take the end of the original film and separate the layers and make it 3D. So suddenly you're watching this footage from the early 70s that now is 3D. I was like, that would blow people's minds. So we came up with a story. Carl Mazzacone loved the story, and he wrote it down, made a 2-pager. And the next thing I know, that 2-pager is sent to 17 other writers. And we have to compete with 17 people who are all using our 2 pages, which is insane.
Yeah.
Luckily, Mark Berg did an amazing thing and looked out for us, seeing that he was our manager. He was the president of our management company. He said, Adam, I would guess that anyone who would write out a full treatment for the movie, and I don't know, maybe write the first 10 pages of the script, that person might get this job. I was like, good to talk to you, Mark. So Deb and I we literally had 14 days before our meeting came up. And Deb and I wrote a 15-page treatment, and we wrote the first 11 pages of the script, the opening of the movie. And we walked in there guns blazing with this like incredible story and fully fleshed out. And then we handed them the opening of the movie, which, by the way, to this day is still the opening of the movie. And we waited over a week until they told us, but they finally called us. And by the way, we went up against every big hitter in Hollywood, like all the top horror guys had pitched. And they called us and they said, "You guys killed it. It's yours."
Yeah.
And so we got hired to do the movie. And then it's a tremendous saga of how that happened. It's a very long story. But the upshot of it is we had to go into a trial against the producer of the movie who tried to take claim over our initial treatment. And he even called Lionsgate to get them to type his name on that treatment, which Deb and I had written. Wow. Oh, yeah. Wow. So there was a trial at the WGA. The producer had to be physically removed from the WGA. He lost his shit. And it was that whole thing was tough. But I will tell you this, the screenplay for that movie got Deb and I 3 more jobs. People read our original script, which, by the way, is very different than the film. We never wrote the line, "Do your thing, cuz." We never wrote that shit. Our movie had no smartphone in it because it took place in 1993.
Yes, that was my biggest question because I saw opening night.
Not only did it was it 1993 in the script in the town square. There's a movie theater playing Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a smartphone in the movie. Wow. I'm like, what the fuck? Deb and I saw the movie. We're like, what is this? But that script, the original script that we wrote, got us a ton of work because people loved the script. And Toby Hooper loved the script so much. He called Deb and I at home and said, "Guys, I got to tell you, I feel like finally someone has made a true sequel to my original film." Wow. And I looked at Deb, I said, "You can put me in the ground. Like, I'm good. I'm good to go. I'm done."
Well, since Peter's got to leave here momentarily, let's talk about the documentary really quick, and we can come back to Chainsaw 3D. Sure. Of course, COVID has kind of put things on the back burner. Was the documentary completed, or have you still got work to do on it?
We did a huge chunk of interviews. And I think we were finishing up right around February, March when COVID hit. Yeah, because it's right before. Yeah. And then maybe you can speak more to Adam about the.
Well, we have 9 more interviews. We have 9 more interviews to do. And that's the frustration is we've got like a couple more days of interviews. And we can't get to people. I mean, John LeMay lives in the middle of the country. My brother Kip lives in Seattle. I mean, we've got people who want to do this, but it's impossible to do. Truly.
And also, you want to make sure, because we did a great DP and everything. You want to make it shot the same way. So I guess technically you could try to do Skype, but it would be weird to suddenly have. Everything has to match. You need to be in person and set it up.
How did you get involved, Peter?
Adam just called because we reconnected for the box set. And then I heard a little bit about it at the beginning stages, like everyone else did. And then, just a few phone calls. We had lunch and just shot the shit, as they say. And I was sorry, it sounds very pretentious. I don't know. I felt like when we talked, and I just shared with Adam some thoughts I had on it. It seemed like Adam really thought they were cool. So I think it was just sort of what would be cool about the, what's the angle? What should this be about and stuff. I think we just were on the same page. So right? Is that right?
Yeah, completely. Okay. And look, here's the thing. The reason why I love Peter so much, beyond the fact that he just is a really good guy, is there's an integrity there that I dig. And for me, that's so important with anybody that I work with. And what's wonderful is that I knew Peter would not be swayed by me. I don't want the movie to be a love letter to my bullshit. So I was like, look, and I even said in your interviews with me, go
you shouldn't be there.
Right. I was not there for a lot of the interviews, unless someone asked me to be there.
But yeah,
I would be there.
some people.
And then, but like Kane Hodder was pissed that I wasn't there. Like he wanted me there, and then like sent me a message like, "What? My house isn't good enough for you? I'm going to kick your ass." But that was the thing. And I said, when you actually interview me, when Peter interviewed me, which was, oh my God, I was in front of the camera, I think, for 12 hours.
2 days. We grilled him. We put him.
And I was like, ask me everything. Like I want you to, I want to have to answer every tough question. I don't want this to be softball. Like, go at me. And again, like tonight, I'm like, there's nothing off limits. I'm not gonna claim immunity all of a sudden. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about all of it.
Yeah.
So
we got some great. I mean, it was. There's great moments like Harry playing the theme on the piano, just like really cool stuff. That because the biggest thing for me, I remember, was just like people. Like, I'm proud of the book, but when I go back and look at it, there's really not that much on each movie. There really isn't, because each movie gets 24 pages. Half of the real estate was pictures. It's really only 12 pages of text. Like some people got maybe 2 interview quotes. So it's really just like a digest version. So. So the biggest thing is kind of like an angle, like, why now? Why is it important? I think the biggest thing for me was just, it's so exciting when a movie, like John Carpenter said, gets divorced from where it came out. There's a whole new generation. There's a whole new slant on it. So there's a lot of cool stuff to explore. So the biggest thing to me is always, is there a story there? Is there a beginning, middle, and end? Is there an arc that you can tell? Because I think people, more than just a ton of footage on a DVD, they want to be told a story. Like you can have cool stuff as the extras and extra interviews, but that main doc has to be something there. Yep.
So hopefully we can put all this behind us very soon, and we can finish up the documentary. I've got my little mask from where I contributed over there. So I'm definitely looking forward to it as a fan of the movie, and I think it'll just probably bring more awareness to the film, and maybe get some people who have been haters of it all these years to give it another shot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like am I wrong? Is there like a bit of a renaissance? I don't know if that's the right word for horror docs in general. I feel like every week there's a new thing on Netflix or Shudder. I just feel like it's just like a really wonderful time for this. But
it seems that way. It seems that way. Yeah.
I think documentaries in general have suddenly become. I think reality television helped push things in that direction, but now people really want like the real story of things. I think that's fascinating for people, and I think we're in a golden age for docs, and that's God bless streaming. Like that's the best thing to come out of streaming.
Well, even podcast, like stuff like this. I mean, as a kid, I could never have imagined that. Can you imagine as a kid if we were able to connect with other horror fans all around the world and do things like this? We couldn't do that when I was a kid. It sounded like the old man.
No, but get off my lawn.
When I was your age. We had fanzines. I had my own printing press in the basement.
And you loved her.
I'm dead.
Well, Peter, do you have any projects that you're working on that you want to share? How's the 90s slasher book coming along?
It's good. Yeah. So it's big. It's a lot, but I'm hoping to announce it soon. It's more just, it's great. So if you're a fan of Scream, I Know Last Summer, Urban Legend, all those movies, it's a Crystal Lake Memories kind of thing. So it's a pretty cool. I've done about 150 interviews for it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. It's we just did an interview with Courtney Cox, which was great, and so we're getting some good reactions, and but now with Scream 5, it's like I don't even know. It's everything like. I realize now, like it's about a certain era, so it does end. It doesn't. It's not, Right. But I realize now that everything's rebooted. Like Halloween, like I think when the new Halloween came out, it's like now Scream 5. It's like at first I was a little sad, like it's like even Crystal Lake Memories. It's a compliment when people say definitive, but I really don't think it's definitive because it never ends. Now there's a whole new generation of fans. There's more things to talk about.
Right.
You just do the best you can to document something, but it keeps going, So, I'm excited. So that's what I'm working on. So, and of course, Hearts of Darkness when we get to start back up.
Hearts of Darkness, the Friday the 13th collection set. You've worked on that.
But we'll talk about that
We'll talk about
actually
that
have a
very soon.
surprise for you guys, but after this, well, we'll do it after you guys turn off.
Very nice.
But hit me back up.
Very nice.
Yeah, so that's exciting, but I know we'll talk about that another time, right, Piz?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. We've got plans to do that. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, because there's a lot of interesting stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
They're announcing more features too, so there'll be some cool stuff coming. I think hopefully soon they're gonna have the final list of features on that. So I can't say what all some of the stuff is.
I know. We got to keep it tight-lipped, you know. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you about anything. But yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, I got to cut off here, but you guys keep going, and then I'll watch the rest later. So.
Awesome, Peter.
It's great, man. Great to see you, Adam, and see you.
Too. Love you, brother.
Right on, man.
Stay safe and healthy, everybody.
Take care, man.
Man.
Have a great one. So you and Deborah pretty much divorced yourselves of Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Not really divorced ourselves. Look, there's still a lot of the movie that is us, and there's a lot of the stuff that I'm proud of in the movie. And I think that look, I think Alexandra Daddario is great casting. I think she's great in the movie. I think she does a really nice job. There was no hitchhiker in our script because by the 90s people stopped fucking hitchhiking, and it's stupid. It's also really stupid when you leave a hitchhiker alone in a house. When you just met him on the road and you go to get steaks to barbecue. I mean, dude, there's so many, but you know, look, John Lucenhop, who's a fine director. He was not a horror movie guy. And it was a bunch of people slumming it in a genre because they saw money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a shame, man, because the original script of the movie was raw and badass, and trust me, it was a lot of Leatherface. So nobody would have the problem that they had with Jason Goes to Hell. I was embracing the fuck out of Leatherface. We had an origin story in there for him. We had flashbacks to Leatherface as a kid. It was badass. And look, the movie they made is fine. It's fine. Mm-hmm. It's a diverting film. It's cute. It's fun. There's some good moments in it. Deb and I made a more brutal, complicated look. When I make horror, I go for the jugular. Like I don't fuck around. And that's what's a little annoying about Texas Chainsaw, because the reason Toby dug it was because I wanted something that was as mean and as down and dirty as his original film. And that's not what they made. They made something pretty glossy. Mm-hmm. And that was the last thing that I thought it should be. I thought, don't make this glossy, make this movie hurt.
Yeah.
And you know, so look, there are good things in it. And I think there's some people who did some wonderful work and shot a very pretty movie and all of that. I just wish, and I think Dan was great as Leatherface. Mm-hmm. But I wish people had gotten to see the movie we wrote, because it was there was a stampede of 1,000 head of cattle right before Act 3 in 3D, and Leatherface walking through the stampeding cattle with his chainsaw running.
Oh wow!
And I was like, that's your poster. Like, that's the poster image, is that shot. Yeah. And you know, they made the movie on the cheap. It was supposed to be a $20 million movie. They made it for 8 or 8.5. Mm. It's half the movie it should be.
Yeah.
You know, which is a shame.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my favorite horror movie of all time.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah. So I really loved the first 15 minutes of 3D, and I liked the last 15 minutes of 3D. Making Leatherface the hero, I thought was a brilliant decision.
Thank you.
Because really Leatherface in the first film is not a bad guy. He's like, where are all these stinky, sweaty hippies coming from? He's just protecting his house, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, it's another, you found yourself in another divisive franchise movie. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Yep. I'm kind of, in the middle with it, but,
there's by the way, so that, in our original script, at the end of the movie, when Leatherface is surrounded, when he's surrounded by 12 people, 12 guys. Mm-hmm. Who are all the remaining members of the group of people that burned them to death, that burned his family to death. And so there's this moment of like, you actually feel sorry for Leatherface. They're kicking him, they're beating him to death. And Alexandra does throw him, that character throws him the chainsaw, but never says, do your thing, cuz. It's just this moment where suddenly Leatherface is given Excalibur.
Yeah.
And he gets, and the scene is him chopping the fuck out of 12 cowboys. It's such a badass, like overwhelmingly cool scene. And again, there's two guys at the end of the movie. There's two dudes. It's like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, but by the way, it was #1 at the box office. So that was great.
It was.
We prevented Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained from ever getting to #1, which makes me proud in a way. And again, there's things about the movie that I think are terrific. We wrote a badass movie and they made a sequel.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your production company, Skeleton Crew, because it sounds like you're doing some really interesting things there.
Yeah, it's cool. As I mentioned before, Brian Sexton, my amazing partner and wife, Deborah Sullivan, and I created Skeleton Crew about 5 years ago because in large part because of Texas Chainsaw, actually, because we were so tired of always working with producers who did not know how to make a movie better than us. Like, you always want to follow someone who knows how to do this job and who has good taste and all that stuff. And I was just tired of I'm tired of towing a line for somebody that I think is an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, look, we're idiots, but we're nice idiots. So maybe we can do better. And so we created Skeleton Crew. We started with my film Secret Santa. That was the first one out of the gate. We have 3 divisions of the company. We have a TV division, which we're right now prepping our first television show called Mosaic that I'm so excited about. I've never been so excited in my life. We have a higher level budget division where we're doing a new film called Velocity that we're casting right now. And then we have our ultra low division, which is my baby. Because I kind of went, where are all the Roger Cormans? Like, where do they all go? Like, people like to say Jason Blum is a Roger Corman. I'm like, no, he's not. He makes movies for millions of dollars. That's not Roger Corman. Roger Corman gave you, $10 and a bologna sandwich and said, make your movie. You get no more money, but you make your movie.
Right.
And that I find to be empowering and wonderful. And so I went out and made Secret Santa for literally no money. I had nothing. I got Bob Kurtzman to come and play with me. I cast it with all of these actors that I adore. And we made this movie for Bupkis. I shot the entire film in 11 nights and 1 day. And it's the movie I'm the most proud of. And,
well, I'm a sucker for a holiday horror movie. And the thing about Secret Santa that I loved was its sense of humor. I could totally tell that the guy who made Jason Goes to Hell made this movie. Like, they take place in the same universe.
Thank you, dude.
And I had just a blast with it.
Thank you, dude. Yeah, it's again, when you make something for I literally did it so that other filmmakers that I would be asking to come into this universe, I was like, look, I'm not going to ever tell a director to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So I let myself be the guinea pig. Deb and I wrote that script in 20 days. We had 4 weeks of pre-production and then shot it in 12. When you realize those are the numbers and that's what we did, it's like, holy shit, that's a movie. I love the music. I mean, I'm very happy with that movie. Well, the thing that's amazing is that film is played all over the world. We've sold it to most of the territories around the world. And the movie is, it was a huge festival hit. I mean, we were at Sitges, we were at both Fright Fests, both London and Glasgow. Fright Fest, it was actually the very first movie that Fright Fest presents, their own label in England. They're the ones who acquired the rights to the film. It's kind of amazing, actually, like for this tiny little movie to do as well as it's done. So that started us off. We have a ton of stuff that's in the ultra low division right now that we're doing with a lot of young new filmmakers, trying to give people a chance, and a lot of diversity. And if you watch Secret Santa, you see how diverse that cast is, and also the age limits are boundless. Like we have young people to old people in the movie.
Yeah. And when you say diversity, you don't just mean like, a person's race. You're talking about you're not just looking for the pretty boy. You're looking for, somebody who looks like a real person.
Yes.
And that's something that I think is cool.
Awesome. By the way, it's something that I was really annoyed about when I went to go see Texas Chainsaw, because I was like, my love of the first movie is that is the motliest group of people in a van.
Mm-hmm,
that group of actors. What's great is that means you feel like you're in the van with them, because those are people you know. The minute you cast the Abercrombie and Fitch models, you're like, well, those aren't me. Those aren't my friends. Okay, they're going to die, whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of what we're doing is about fuck your expectations, fuck the pretty people. By the way, I love having a pretty person in a movie. I'm not saying this. There's nothing wrong with that too. That's great. But I want it to feel like the world that we live in.
Mm.
And here's the thing. To that end, we have a film that we're doing right now. We've tapped a young director named Kelsey Bolig, and an incredible writer named Lindsay Hollister that Deb and I worked with for the last couple of years crafting this, and two amazing producing partners who brought us this project, Heather Alton and Sarah Cheney of Six with Heels. And we have a movie called Fat Camp Massacre that we're doing right now. And Fat Camp Massacre is for people of size what Get Out was for people of color.
Mm.
The tagline of the movie is "Get ready for the real Hunger Games." And it is a big middle finger to body dysmorphia and fat shaming and all of the stuff that comes with it. And I'm telling you, I've never been so proud in my life to be working on a movie. Like it's so cool. And this young woman that we've tapped to direct the movie is one of the first female directors I've ever sat in a room with who flat out looked me in the eye and said, "Horror is in my blood." And I'm like, really? And she's like, I'm not. I said, because look, my nightmare is hiring a director who has a Jane Austen script in her back pocket.
Mm.
Like that's what she really wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Kelsey was like, no, this is what I want to do. And you look at this woman's short films, which have won awards all over the world. I actually met her at the Women in Horror Film Festival in Georgia last year, or earlier this year, excuse me. And I was a judge in that festival, and I fell in love with one of her films. And it's those kinds of directors with that kind of specific vision that I'm like, yeah, I want to work with you. I want to give you your shot to tell your story. And so Fat Camp Massacre is brutal and nuts and funny, and gory like you can't imagine. There is a scene in this movie that I'm telling you, people will be talking about from now till forever. It's
Wow.
it's the single most disturbing thing. Let's put it this way. The gore at the end of Dead Alive, like, ain't nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Jeez.
So that's one of the films we're doing. We have a really cool movie called This Perfect Day that is a cross between Jacob's Ladder and this wonderful film called The Celebration by Thomas Vinterberg, which was the second Dogma movie ever made. But it's about a young woman who on the day of her wedding realizes she's a paranoid schizophrenic, and that the images that are coming to her during the day of her wedding, they might just be figments of her imagination and her disease, or it might be her brain screaming to save her.
Wow.
So that one's more of a kind of a psychological horror film that we're doing. We've got a great movie called Orpheus Falling, which is sort of my version of Taxi Driver. That is just badass and ugly and awesome. So we're doing a ton of stuff, and it's all different, and it's all going to be cast with amazing. We got amazing actors, and one of the things that I've been doing for the last 20 years in LA, I've been teaching since I was 15 years old. That's when I started teaching acting. And when I moved to Los Angeles, I audited a bunch of classes in LA, and I hated everything I saw. I hated the acting classes because it was really a lot of favoritism in classes and a lot of backbiting and actors constantly competing with each other. And I'm like, what is this? When I came out of the theater in New York, where it's like always a family, and I love that feeling. So I created a class. I teach 2 nights a week, even now on Zoom during the pandemic. I've never taken a break. And I've got 60 actors that I work with every week that are all people that you've seen in television shows or on movies and all this stuff. They're all quite extraordinary. And I have like this amazing troupe of actors that I work with, a la kind of Christopher Guest style. But they do horror movies, and they do thrillers, and they do the stuff that I'm doing. And so I've got this, Secret Santa is truly cast 100% from my actors. So Drew Lynch from America's Got Talent, the stuttering comedian, he was a student of mine for 10 years. Michael Rady, who's sort of the king of the Hallmark movie, he's one of my guys. So I've got all these wonderful people, and here's the thing. So many of them, like, they get a 5-line role on a Law and Order, and they're like over the moon, and you make a lot of money, and it's all great. But that's not what these people got into the business for. They got in there to play full characters and starring roles and really give a performance. And so few of them get to. And mostly because they're different sizes or different shapes or different colors or different, and I'm like, fuck all that. Like, you're brilliant, and we'll write to your voice. Like, let's write a part for you. I mean, one of the leads of Secret Santa, Ryan Seaton, is one of the most savagely talented actors I've ever worked with. But she's a big girl. Well, no one's writing a part for her like that. Nobody is.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you're a genius. I'm writing for you. Like, I'm going to write you a part. Like,
she was great in that movie. Great movie.
Great, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's amazing. By the way, she has a Broadway caliber singing voice, but you would never know it because nobody ever gets to use it. So those are the wrongs I'm trying to right to some degree. And I want to give people a chance, man. I want to give people a chance to make their movies and tell their stories. And I'm going to keep doing my thing. I'm going to keep, making my movies, but I want them to, I want to give a new generation of people. And by the way, not only that, we have a mandate in our production, in our company's motto, not just that we hire different sizes and different colors, but every one of our films has to have a key position that is filled by somebody over 60. So there are a bunch of writers that I know that have been working forever in our business who have never gotten a chance to direct, yet they'd be great directors. And so those are some of the people that I'm working with right now to develop their stories, to get them to make their films, even though they are past their expiration date as far as the way the Hollywood mind thinks. Right. I don't think that way. I want the most talented people to make their stories.
I think that's fantastic, man. I think that's fantastic. Dude. Yeah. Thank
you. Well, that's what Skeleton Crew is. And by the way, the Skeleton Crew thing is a double thing. By the way, the company that I made when I was 15 years old was called Skeleton Crew. So it's been my dream always to have this company. But to that end, it's not just a play on the idea that we do a lot of horror and a lot of thrillers. It's also the fact that I do not believe in big crews. I think there's a ton of waste on our sets. And for me, it's about, I want everyone to walk off set at the end of the day exhausted because they worked their asses off that day. Because for me, I have no better feeling in the world than when I hit my bed sheets and I am tired. I am dead tired from working. That is the best feeling in the world. So my set, man, you work your ass off, but you have a great time doing it. And we're a family. It's I don't know if you watched the documentary that's on the disc as well on Secret Santa.
I did not. I streamed it.
Cool. Oh, good. Okay. Well, dude, I got to tell you something. Please check out the documentary. It's actually, we're going to be streaming the documentary in October. We hit iTunes and Amazon with both.
Oh, cool.
But check it out because, dude, I'm telling you, the documentary, it's a feature length. It's 72 minutes. And it really kind of tells what our company is about. And you also get to see like the level of shenanigans on a set when we're making a movie, that it's a party.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, it's fun. Work should be fun. You should work your ass off, but it should be a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I really enjoyed Secret Santa. I reviewed it last year during the holidays, and if you guys haven't seen it, seek it out. It's out there. Check it out.
Awesome.
A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Thank you, brother.
So let's wrap things up by talking about the box set that's coming out here in October.
Yep.
Jason Goes to Hell's getting a new 2K scan of the unrated. Have you seen what the movie looks like in the 2K?
I have not seen the 2K yet. No, they haven't shown it to me yet. I'm dying to see it. But I have been there for all of the extras and all of that stuff. So they've had me very, very involved on this thing, which I've been thrilled to do.
That's great. I know you've recorded a new commentary with Peter, which I'm sure will be a lot of fun. The unrated cut and the rated cut both have a 2K scan, and on the unrated cut, they've inserted the cut footage in HD. So there probably won't be that much of a difference.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited to see the film in HD and for the unrated cut to finally be on a Blu-ray, for God's sake.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Finally.
So.
Yep. Redheaded stepchild no more.
So yeah, I'm really excited for that release, and I know a lot of people out there are too. And from what I understand, it is rapidly nearing being sold out. So
yeah. No, it's a hefty price asking for that set.
It is.
But I got to tell you, man, I know. Look, Edwin Samuelson, who's directing the documentary with us. He's the guy who's doing Hearts of Darkness. Eddie directed and produced all of these segments with Peter, all of the extra footage, all the documentaries, all the stuff that's on those discs. He's doing an incredible job. I've seen a bunch of the stuff. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's why I wanted both those guys to do our documentary, because I saw what they were doing on the box set, and I'm like, you guys are aces. Like, you guys, you know your shit. So let's do this together.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the new box set. And again, hopefully, all this pandemic stuff, we can get that behind us and we can finish up the documentary, because I'm really excited about seeing that too. But oh my God, we've gone for almost 3.5 hours. You are
amazing.
You are a freaking prince for hanging out this long.
It's all good.
I absolutely appreciate it. I know everybody in the chat has just been, they seem to have had a really nice time.
Good, man. That's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely appreciate it. Like I said, I've been a fan for a long time, and it's really cool to be able to sit down and do this with you. And I just appreciate you giving us 3.5 hours of your life to do so.
Brother, I got to tell you something. It's only because I've had such a good time. You're amazing. I've always known that you're amazing. Peter had talked so highly of you as well. And you got to know, like, if I'm having a good time, I'm happy to hang out and stick around and talk.
Perfect. That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah.
So let me give some shout outs here to some people who've stuck it out with us too. Killer Cutie, Sinister Antics, Big Crack Rock, Scary Jerry. Thank you guys for tuning in over on Twitter. I appreciate that. Kevin Smythe, if you're still with us. Over on YouTube, let's see. My buddy Nico says a world-class stream tonight, Piers, and Adam and Peter. Thank you. Thank you for a fun time, Adam, says Anthony Jordan. Let's see. Brian Trash, Jeff Overing, John McCullough, Dola White 13, Gabe K. Okla, who says he loves Adam and Dean's commentary on Jason Goes to Hell. Yes.
Love that. Thanks.
Let's see. Brian Trash says he owns Secret Santa. He loves holiday horror movies.
Very cool.
Very cool. Let's see. Who else is with us tonight? Still with us. Owen Sartor, DJ Donnelly, Captain Halloween, my buddy Steak Sauce, the Zodiac Killer, Michael Vandern, Believe in the Hype. Let's see. Anthony Jordan, my buddy Christian is here. You actually filmed a little thing for Christian's, like a little intro to Christian's Jason Goes to Hell live commentary recently.
Yes, I did.
So Luke is here with us tonight also. But yeah, we just had a packed house the whole night. We've had pretty much over 100 viewers the entire stream. It's been a very lively chat. And yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun, absolutely. And again, thank you to Mr. Marcus for giving us 3.5 hours of his life. And to Peter, thank you, Peter. He's always been so cool hanging out with me and talking about the series and whatnot. So a lot of love and respect for him as well. But yeah, thank you guys again for tuning in. Thank you so much, Adam. I appreciate it. Say hello to Deborah for me.
Will do. Absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, so you guys take care. I think Peter has something he wants to mention to us here momentarily. Adam, so hang on for a second if you can.
Will do.
I'm going to play us out with a little bit of music. But again, you guys have a great night. And thank you so much for tuning in. We will we'll see you again in the very near future. Peace.
Peace.
Excuse me, would you care to dance?
To this?
Yes, this is good.
Just 'cause you play it cool, don't think you got me fooled tonight. Alright. Don't ask me to stay. Don't think you got it made, no. You're wrong. 'Cause you can't fake it anymore. I know what
Are we clear? Cool. By the way, dude, this is great. You're fantastic. Really good, man. Yeah, dude, seriously. Sorry about the clicking in the background earlier.